Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the special City Council meeting. It's November 19th, 2020. We'll start this meeting with a roll call and determination of quorum.
Nordstrom.
Here.
Weifenbach.
Here.
Roberts.
Here.
Stroman.
Here.
Armstrong.
Here.
Jones.
Here.
Lehman.
Here.
Solomon.
Here.
Evans.
Here.
Drew.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, thank you. And now, if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you. And now for the adoption of the agenda, because one of our members is calling in on the phone, we'll have a roll call vote on the adoption of the agenda. Would there be a motion first? Motion by Solomon, second by Jones. Roll call for approval of the agenda, please.
Roberts.
Here.
Stroman.
Here.
Armstrong.
Yes.
Jones.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Solomon.
Aye.
Evans.
Here.
Drew.
Aye.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Weifenbach. Motion passes.
Okay, thank you. Before we start into general public comment, I'm just going to talk to you for a minute about the procedure tonight. We're not filling out speaker request forms like usual. Frankly, I expected too many people to keep track of all that. I think it'd be a lot more orderly if, when it's your turn to talk, if we could just start to form a line of 1 or 2 or 3 people or whatever you're comfortable with, and then just speak at the podium. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. You can watch these lights to see how you're doing. When it starts flashing yellow, you've got 30 seconds to wrap up. Since there are several speakers tonight, we would ask that you be respectful of that. And if you don't have to take up 3 minutes, we'd appreciate that too. That'll save us some time in the end. Also want to explain our mask policy for City Hall and the reason behind it. During the pandemic, I think we did a good job. We put a lot of effort in here to keep city employees healthy. We did that by slowing down our meetings, doing more virtual meetings. We spaced out chairs in meeting rooms. We limited traffic between floors and between work groups. And I believe we had our first positive case in City Hall about a month ago. And there's been a few since. So in the beginning, in the very first press conference we had on this pandemic, and it was clear back in February, I believe, I made a promise then that I think is a very valid promise today, and that is that the city will continue to provide essential services. The most essential services to operate this city are water production, water reclamation, public safety, and solid waste collection. If one of those goes down, we have an immediate public safety threat. So it's our desire to keep all of our employees at City Hall safe. When we had the one employee and eventually a few others become ill with COVID-19, we then put in a city building mask mandate just simply for the purpose to allow us to keep our promise. We do have some necessary interaction between employees in this building and employees who are off-site. We have some interaction with them. Our goal is to keep everyone safe. For that fact and that fact alone, we created the mask mandate for city buildings. You may see council members up here, you may see myself take our mask off momentarily while we're talking. We're all separated here by plexiglass. We're way more than 6 feet away from the audience. And as you know, if you wear a mask, people with glasses are a little bit disadvantaged as far as talking and being able to see at the same time. So you may see that from time to time, but for those of you in the audience, I would encourage you to wear masks. I know you're here in protest, and I know that you're making a statement by not wearing a mask, but I would consider it a common courtesy for you to help me keep my promise to keep essential city services up and running by putting on a mask. And there are masks available over here at this end of the table by the fire chief, and you can have one for your time here. As let's say all of you who are here in the room who want to speak have spoken, I would ask you to consider giving up your seat if there are people waiting out here who may, and I think they're all outside still, but if there are people waiting to get in here, I would just ask you to consider perhaps giving up your seat so someone else can be in here and wait to speak. So I think that's enough of that. We'll start with general public comment. Remember to keep your eye on the lights here, and we can just start off with Tanchi Weaver. When you get up to the microphone, please state your name so we know who you are, and then we'll commence with public comment. Go ahead.
Tanchi Weaver. I'm here tonight speaking for myself and for South Dakota Citizens for Liberty. The Rapid City Council is a representative body whose primary job is to protect the rights of citizens, not suspend them. This proposed ordinance is a broad interpretation of 932.1, the first statute in the chapter of South Dakota law dedicated to sanitation and health measures. It authorizes the city to govern things like public water and sewer, municipal garbage disposal, food and meat inspection, public toilets, refuse in public places and streams, cemeteries, and noxious weeds. The second statute in that chapter allows the city to appoint a board of health and define its powers and duties, but Rapid City has no such board. Even if we did, that board would be subject to the State Department of Health. On veto day, there were 2 bills introduced which attempted through an emergency declaration to create the power you claim you have in this ordinance. SB 191 would have granted such power to counties' community involvement or community improvement districts and municipalities. HB 1297 would have given the same power to the Secretary of Health. Both were defeated because, as established in Marbury v. Madison, any law repugnant to the Constitution is null and void. Even though the ordinance cites the governor's state of emergency declaration, she and her Department of Health know they have no power to mandate what you claim you can. Our Constitution was forged in crisis with no emergency clause. As U.S. District Court Judge William Stickman noted this when he struck down Pennsylvania's unconstitutional lockdown and mask wearing, quote, "Even in an emergency, the authority of government is not unfettered. The liberties protected by the Constitution are not fair weather freedoms in place when times are good, but able to be cast aside in times of trouble. There is no question that this country has faced and will face emergencies of every sort. But the solution to a national crisis can never be permitted to supersede the commitment to individual liberty that stands as the foundation of the American experiment. The Constitution cannot accept the concept of a new normal, where the basic liberties of the people can be subordinated to open-ended mitigation measures. Rather, the Constitution sets certain lines that may not be crossed, even in an emergency," unquote. The Constitution is the law of the land, not Rapid City Ordinance. Thank you.
Okay, who's next? You state your name, please.
My name is Carly Wescott. I'm here tonight because I want to talk about numbers that I found on the South Dakota Health Department website today. The state numbers on deaths: 705 total deaths, 69,742 cases for, if you can do basic math, a 1% death rate. Pennington County numbers on deaths: 61 deaths total, 7,469 cases, that's today, for a 0.08% death rate. Deaths by age range in South Dakota. Ages 80 and over, 394 deaths for 56% of those deaths that we have had. The age range of 70 to 79, 147 deaths for 21%. Age group 60 to 69, 93 deaths for 13%. And if you add all that up, that accounts for 90% of the deaths, with the majority of people having pre-existing health problems. Recoveries. This is something no one wants to discuss, but we have a 99% recovery rate in our city, and the majority of people who get COVID recover without hospitalization. I would say to everyone here, what we have here in Rapid City is a case-demic. We don't have a pandemic. A pandemic is when you've got massive numbers of people dying. We don't have that here. I would also like to state some facts. This year, the schools in Rapid City required all students and teachers to wear masks. And what happened? Case numbers still increased, and several schools are now closed, and they're back to online schooling. That's with wearing masks. Major cities and states across the nation with mask mandates in place have seen little or no reduction in case numbers, and New Mexico, where my daughter lives, is a prime example. Entire state has had a mask mandate since March of this year. The governor just put the entire state on lockdown for a second time. The number of cases increased even with mask mandates. Labels on mask packaging has warnings. I don't know if you've read this or not. They state things like, does not protect against viruses. Some of them even specify, does not protect against COVID. So we're all running around wearing masks that don't protect us, and the packaging has warnings on it that say that. If masks work, then the wearer of the mask should be protected by wearing it. If they don't work, then no number of people wearing the mask makes us safer. Our state and national constitutions do not give you, the mayor, or anyone else the right to infringe on the God-given rights of the people. Exercising my God-given right to breathe oxygen and not recycled carbon dioxide filled with toxins is not an act of selfishness, like you have said, Mr. Mayor. And I'm going to fight to protect my right to breathe oxygen. Thank you.
Okay, who's next?
Good evening. Thank you for the honor to be able to speak before the City Council. My name is Jamie Goss. I do have many certifications in the neuroscience and autoimmune disease situation. I did not realize, because I have been self-protecting, how decisive this issue is. I thought everyone knew that COVID was real, but I'm hearing people, it's become like a religion. Some people believe in God, some people don't, and it's become that decisive. I came to explain the disease, to explain the vaccination, and why people need to be more informed than a headline, and to offer maybe an alternative for this body to make everyone not happy, but short-term. I will explain very quickly about the new Pfizer and Moderna vaccines. The vaccine is a pretty rare, from what I understand, mRNA vaccine. It will go in and rewrite our genetic code. It will bind with your DNA. We have no long-term effects of knowing how it's going to react in our body. It's made in a petri dish. It's synthetic. Everyone should be informed before they take it, and it is their right if they want to take it or not. My suggestion for an out-of-the-box solution for this situation would be, there are going to be those of us that want to wear masks. There are those of us that want, and they don't want to wear them, and everyone should have their rights. I request that it be considered that our businesses here in Rapid City take a survey, a one-question survey of all their patrons. I would like to see a 1 to 2 week mandatory mask wearing, and then it be gone. People that do not want to wear a mask should tell them, do you want to wear a mask, yes or no? They can take the percentage and keep their businesses open for those of us who want to wear masks and those that don't want to wear masks. I'm sure there's employees that don't want to wear masks. They can man the store, the restaurant, whatever the case may be, while they have patrons that do not wear masks. It should be divided as a percentage of, if they have 10% of their patrons that want to wear masks, then they get 10% of the open hours. These situations need to have some type of teeth. You know, from the government situation, people are refusing to wear masks. What are we going to do about it? They know we can do nothing. Maybe a civil disobedience ticket. And those of us wearing masks, okay. Thank you. I hope you can consider it.
Thank you very much. Next.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Eldon Rice. I'm a dentist here in town. I've been practicing clinical dentistry for 33 years. I started my career when the AIDS epidemic broke out, and that was a 100% fatal disease, and we didn't know how transmissible it was going to be. So nothing wakes you up about learning the transmissibility of infectious diseases with a new pandemic. New pandemic with, we didn't know how virulent it was going to be. So I know quite a bit about this topic. Now think about what a dentist does, okay? All day today, I had patients in the chair. I'm spinning a high-speed handpiece at 300,000 RPM. Their blood and saliva and water is being sprayed up in the air, causing droplets to form, okay? I have one N95 mask on. So if you want to protect yourself, and it's your right to do so, I don't believe in a mask mandate. One of the untruths that are being told here is that your mask protects you and my mask protects me. Really? None of my patients had any masks on today. If you look at the dental field, my daughter's a hygienist in California, we're all being protected and being safe by one well-fitting N95 mask. Now, if you want to get an N95 mask fit, go on the OSHA website. You have to, sorry guys, your masks are almost worthless. If you're going to make a mask mandate, it should be OSHA approved, it should be N95s, you should be fit tested, and no facial hair. Go on the website. You cannot have any facial. So you got to make people shave. Your cloth masks, my assistant was talking to her physician yesterday, cloth masks are worthless. Yeah. So if you want to protect yourself, then do it. Get an N95 mask, go on the OSHA website, go get an occupational respiratory therapist to fit you, and go walk around safely. There's no evidence that we need 2 masks to protect people. It's nonsense. We're at the panic phase of the pandemic. There's lots of information. Everybody's worried. There's lots of misinformation. Mayor, I don't know. I'm glad that you haven't had very much infection here. I don't know, and you don't know why that is, though. I don't think it's your mask. It's probably separation. We don't know. We don't know a lot about it. We have to start looking at death rates. Recently, we've had some therapeutics come out. If the death rate falls low enough, we don't really have to worry too much about mask wearing unless it's your choice. Otherwise, we're doing it for colds and flu and everything. So be careful, look at the data, and make up your own mind. But really, all you need is a mask for yourself. Look at the dental field.
Okay, next.
Hi. I think I can say that without disrespect because you're all younger than me. But what I want to talk about tonight is that mandate. You all are going to make a decision. You've heard the pros, you've heard the cons, and I'm sure you have a lot more information than I'll ever have. But my concern is a very narrow one, and it deals with our places of worship. To think that I would approach my Lord with a mask on my face is bordering on blasphemy. And to think that whenever you take the mask off to take Holy Communion, you're vitiating the entire concept of the masking principle. And then we have people waiting outside in the cold trying to get in, but they can't get in because we've cordoned off everything in order to have social distancing. It seems to me that if we could have just a tiny exclusion, whatever your decision is, if we could have a tiny exclusion that says this mandate goes into effect for everybody except, well, the ones that you said, Mr. Mayor, but also you exclude the places of worship. Let the people come to the church door and then go in there and worship as they want. And then when they come back out, the mandate takes effect again. But while they're in there, they should not be subject to any type of penalty for whatever they do or however they conduct themselves, and possibly even a prison term. That to me is just, it borderlines on tyranny. And I would really ask that if you're going to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, you're going to do what you do. But you don't render unto Caesar what is God's. God says, you worship me in a certain way. We try to do that. And we, by I mean the people of my church, find it very difficult to do that if we have an intermediary telling us what to do. Let us worship as we wish. Render unto God what is God, and let us worship in peace. That's all I'm saying.
Your name, sir? I missed it.
I'm sorry. My name is Victor Reston.
Thank you. Next.
Good evening. Thank you very much for allowing me to speak for a little bit. I'm Scott McGinley. I live here in Rapid City. It's the first time I've ever attended one of these meetings. So I'm just going to read this statement because of those that do know who I am, I can get way off base and take a long time. So I want to read this statement, probably step on some toes, and I apologize, but so our politicians and our government agencies are always citing the will of the American people. You hear it every day, all day long on Fox and CNBC and all the rest of them. They really don't have an understanding of the people and their needs. And they're pretty much concerned with only their political futures. Dusty Johnson, very first guy, when we put him in there, he voted on his feeling, not what we put him in there to vote for. And then Senator Thune, first guy, we have the honor, first guy to throw in the towel on President Trump. Mr. Rounds, he wanted to repeal, he promised to repeal, to repeal or to say, I will repeal Obamacare. 6 months later, after he's elected, it's repeal and replace. And then there's 100 senators get together, kick old John McCain into the grave after he votes against us on the Obama deal, and that hurts. I mean, it just, so I don't believe that the politicians always have the right heart in the whole program. And so that being said, you know, and then we got Senate Bill 191 is defeated and 1297. So if you take a look at Christie, she embraced that. I mean, she really did. She embraced it, and she is America's governor right now. People love her. You know, they do, because she's honored what we really wanted to have done. And that was done by our legislature. So God bless those people. And so now we come to the mayor and the city council in the city of the presidents. And, you know, I just wonder if the mayor and the city council should support the president of the United States, Governor Nome, our House legislatures, the South Dakota people, and the residents of Rapid City. I just wonder if we can do that. I don't think anybody's opposed to a mask. If you're going to go to Lowe's and they don't have one, you don't have to wear one. But if you go to Menards, you got to. And that's okay. We should do that and have that courtesy for those people. I really believe we should do that. And let those businesses make those decisions. And then follow through. Just be courteous and do that. And the House of Worships, I got just one statement on that. I'll read just a little bit later when we're done. But so put the vote to Rapid City today. Would they vote a mandatory mask? We've been watching other states with those laws, and it's not working. Remember, it was to bend the curve, not to, you know, now it's curing the disease. So I just wonder who's pushing you guys to the new normal, you know, the tyranny to do that. And are they telling the mask will keep us from being exposed and never getting it? Never getting the disease? Is that what we're doing? So I just think you should represent the will of people. rather than do just what you want to do. We don't believe the media, doggone it, and Fauci and the CDC and the WHO, those guys, they haven't told us the truth. So, that being said, my last statement, put the Bible back in schools, teach for right and wrong. My suggestion to you is if you want to stop this virus, heal the people, and be an example of the United States of America, have 30 days of mandatory prayer to the Son of God, Lord Jesus Christ, and He will take care of that program. Thank you for your time. Sorry I went over.
Thank you. Next, please.
I have copies of my testimony. Can I hand those to somebody? Thank you, members of the council, for your service to the people of Rapid City and for the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Mary Beth Adams, and I'm a board-certified family nurse practitioner. I have practiced as a primary care provider for the last 14 years. I founded a nonprofit clinic with a focus population being underserved families with an emphasis on pediatrics and maternal child health. I'm a signatory on the Greater Barrington Declaration. The declaration is articulated in the statement found on gbdeclaration.org, and that's in your paperwork. The most compassionate approach that balances the risks and benefits of reaching herd immunity is to allow those who are at minimal risk of death to live their lives normally, to build up immunity to the virus through natural infection, while better protecting those who are at highest risk. We call this focused protection. Those who are not vulnerable should immediately be allowed to resume life as normal. Simple hygiene measures such as hand washing and staying home when sick should be practiced by everyone to reduce the herd immunity threshold. Schools and universities should be open for in-person teaching. Extracurricular activities such as sports should be resumed. Young, low-risk adults should work normally rather than from home. Restaurants and other businesses should open. Arts, music, sport, and other cultural activities should resume. People who are at more risk may participate if they wish, while society as a whole enjoys the protection conferred upon the vulnerable by those who have built up herd immunity. This statement has been signed by 12,070 medical and public health scientists, 34,975 medical practitioners, and 634,840 concerned citizens worldwide. The epidemiologists responsible for founding this declaration note that herd immunity will result in 3 to 6 months, whereby lockdowns and measures used to suppress the disease, such as mask mandates, could postpone it up to 3 years. This would be devastating. Of special concern to me is the pediatric population that is suffering from this mask wearing. The CDC reports that up to 5 years old, PEDS patients have had a 21% increase in mental health crises. 12 to 17-year-olds have had a 34% increase. Children are developing delusional psychoses where they refuse to remove their masks at home in fear that they will kill their parents and grandparents. I have supplied a chart of the R0, or herd immunity threshold, in the paperwork. South Dakota is very close to crossing the threshold to 1 or below, which means normal life with endemic equilibrium of the COVID-19 virus. Please do not vote for the mask mandate. Thank you again for allowing me to speak.
Okay, next, please.
Hi, my name's Lori Davis, and I'm here to ask that you vote no on this for several reasons. One, I like being treated like an adult, not like a little child. I also prefer to not give up my freedoms. We're getting conditioned with things like mask mandates to give up further freedoms. What happens if the mask mandate doesn't work and we see the numbers go up? Do we start adding things like wearing masks outside, wearing masks in your home? We've seen this ludicrous stuff happen already in other states. And I also don't like the idea of healthy people or people who've already been sick and recovered, who've acquired immunity, being forced to wear masks. They're uncomfortable. I don't think anybody likes wearing them. I like to breathe fresh air and not stale air. I also hate to see the division it puts in our community. You're going to cause police resources to be affected. You're going to have people calling on each other, turning each other in. You're going to have people in restaurants mad because somebody didn't wear their mask from walking to the door to sit down. What does it matter if whether I'm at the door, walking to the table, or sitting at the table with a mask off? That seems kind of ridiculous. And I also would like to say, I think if you look around downtown, there are so many businesses going out. You are hurting businesses. And all you're doing is making people scareder and scareder to ever go out to any of these businesses. I don't think, you know, I believe there is definitely a virus. I'm not denying that. But I think you need to weigh the economic effects also and consider everything before you go down such a drastic road. Thanks.
Next, please.
My name is Florence Thompson, and I refuse to wear a mask. And the reason I refuse is I refuse to bear false witness. When I walk around a store with a mask on, I am saying, I comply, I agree. It's necessary for us to wear masks. We're afraid. We've got something terrible and deadly threatening us. We must wear masks. We must be afraid. That is false witness. I refuse to do it. The death rate does not justify these kind of measures. And so we are just promoting fear among the population. Also, I live outside the city limits, and I know some of my neighbors out there have said, I'm not going to shop in Rapid City. I'm going to shop online. I'm going to go to Hot Springs, or I'm going to go to Sturgis, or I'm going to go to Spearfish, or someplace where they don't have masks, have to wear masks. So Rapid City is rolling up the welcome mat and throwing it away, basically, and saying, we don't want people to come into Rapid City. You know, there's no such thing as being 100% safe. But I know that the treatments are much better now, and the death rate is going down. I had a friend who was an old guy. He's in his late 80s, and he had many years with emphysema or whatever, a lung problem, and he had carried around a tank of oxygen, and now he's in a nursing home. And I heard the other day that he got COVID, and I thought, well, that's probably the end of him. Nope. He recovered from the COVID. He's still in the nursing home. He's still got his lung problem, but he's alive. So it isn't the death sentence that we've been taught that it is. And I refuse to bear false witness and spread fear.
Next, please.
Hi, my name is Cathy Rice. Has mandatory mask wearing of masks ever been done in history of fighting the epidemic before this one? Has any scientific peer review studies show that making the entire world wear a mask affects the fighting of any kind of illness? The answer to both of those questions is no. It's never been done in a massive scale in history before. The reports of TB, people having to wear a mask for TB, that is to protect them when they cough. So they do ask people to do that. But in the 1918, when they had the Spanish flu, they did ask people to wear masks. They tried to have all people wear masks during that flu time, but that only lasted for a few months because the people protested. They would not wear it. It has never been attempted for all healthy people to be around the world to wear a mask. This has no scientific showing that a mass of people, healthy people, wearing masks at all times, it helps. There's much evidence, however, that it hurts. That it hurts it gives you a false sense. I see people wear masks like this, You know, just these masks do nothing to prevent anybody. They don't wear them right. They're touching them all the time. They're always fiddling with them. And then they're touching their nose. When they take them off, they wipe their face off. This is what you see all the time in the stores and whatnot. And then they touch your stuff. So all you have to do is, you have to watch your hygiene, because this is a real virus. It's a small virus. A tiny virus, this is not going to have any help for you. It just gives you a false sense of security. Wearing a mask causes bacteria, viruses build up in a mask. What else? It develops moisture inside these masks, and it causes a lot of lung issues in certain people, and coughs and stuff inside a mask. And breathing your own CO2 is very unhealthy. They've even had children in China that were required to wear a mask, and they actually died, 2 boys, doing a running exercise in PE. So these are the things that I'm concerned about. We are good citizens. We will do what's right to help other people. If we're sick, we self-quarantine. If we are at all feeling ill or sore throat, I'll keep myself home just to make sure that I am not carrying, because we don't know sometimes that when we're affected. I will probably wear a mask when I go into a store, just because I don't know. I'll conform a little bit. But to have it to be your choice, not mine, is not okay. Thank you.
Next, please.
Melissa Aberle. I've been a healthcare professional for the past 30 years, and I've been a nurse practitioner in family practice for over 19 years. Much has been learned over the last 9 months during this epidemic, and new emerging science has surfaced. A recent review paper published in Emerging Infectious Diseases, the Journal for the CDC, found no evidence to support universal mask wearing as a protective measure in non-healthcare settings. This past year, a meta-analysis reviewed evidence from randomized controlled trials regarding the efficacy of face masks. It concluded that the mask did not support a substantial effect on transmission of respiratory illnesses. In addition, a study of 44 different brands of masks found that medical masks, general masks, and handkerchiefs were found to provide very little protection against respiratory aerosols. In another study, aerosols penetrated cloth masks 97% of the time, and medical masks 44% of the time. The efficacy of masks can be likened to body armor made out of cardboard. I understand the desire to keep our citizens safe and healthy if there has truly been an increase in the number of COVID-19 cases. However, testing can be greatly flawed and COVID numbers greatly inflated. Elon Musk this past Friday questioned the veracity of COVID testing, saying, quote, "Something extremely bogus is going on. I was tested for COVID 4 times today. 2 tests came back negative, 2 came back positive, same machine, same test, same nurse. The PCR tests that are frequently used cannot distinguish between live and inactive viruses. Carrie Mullis, inventor of the PCR test, repeatedly emphasized this test should not be used as a diagnostic tool for the simple reason that it is incapable of diagnosing disease. A positive test does not actually mean that an active infection is present." This past July, the CDC even noted that, quote, "This test cannot rule out diseases that are caused by other bacterial or viral pathogens." Are we truly seeing an uptick in the number of COVID cases, or are we accidentally including common colds as well? I thank you for your due diligence in reviewing the results of recent research. I strongly encourage you not to mandate mask wearing, because 99.997% of us will not die from this virus. Please do not do this to us and our children. I also have handouts regarding the Great Barrington Declaration that the other nurse practitioner talked about, which was written by infectious disease epidemiologists and signed by over 35,000 medical practitioners. And then on the back, there are graphs about mandating masks in different countries, as well as in Montana and Sweden, and the increased uptick in cases of COVID. Thank you so much.
Next, please.
My name's Teresa Gonzalez. Some of you I spoke to on the phone today. Some of you probably don't like me. That's okay. But I am here as a small business that has provided health and fitness to this community since 2007. And I don't really want to talk about political opinions, although I think they have their place, so thank you to those who have shared. And I don't want to talk about religious opinions, although I definitely feel that those do not have their place in a public setting. But I will talk to you about health because I have clout there, and many of you do not. Okay? So we run a program with 0.001% of the population that takes extreme measures to protect their health. Extreme to the point where they come in, they do a body scan, we talk to them about the condition of their body. By the way, we're called Evolve. And we do a breakdown of what they personally need, a diagnostic breakdown. Not a one-size-fits-all diet, guys, because that doesn't work. Many of you probably know that from experience. But we get them into a program that will work, in which they have to report their weight daily with data, and they have to provide us with what they ate for the day. Very invasive, right? So for my community of 60 members, what I really think as a small business owner is I don't need your recommendations. I'm 10 steps ahead of what mandate you're trying to enforce for people for my business and my clients. We don't want masks. Masks aren't healthy for my clients. We're trying to do cardio. And if you haven't tried it with a mask, feel free to do a couple burpees right now. Let me know how that works for you. Not so fun. The masks are going to get sweaty, okay? They're going to cause bacteria. They're going to throw them in their gym bag, and they're probably not going to wash them, like many of you, like me, who just throw it in your car, and you wear it when you have to. And I'm all about that, 100%. I'm wearing a mask in here because I respect you. This is not my turf. This is not my house. But in my house and on my turf and in my business, who are you to tell me how to run that? When you don't know better than I do when it comes to health, and if you do, by all means, please share. The community would love to know how to battle COVID better. We really would. But we're doing our best within our community, and you putting in enforcement on my business, which actually restricts my client's ability to work out effectively and to create lungs that can go under extreme conditions like COVID, is backwards. You know, as far as the politics go, I have a degree in politics. I went into health because I can change more lives that way, okay? But as far as public policy goes, I'm not here to do your job, all right? But please stop trying to do mine. Let the doctors, let the nurses, let the individuals and the mothers and the families do what they need to do for their families. We will wear masks where it's mandated. I 100% am behind that. But for you to mandate a one-size-fits-all is like walking into my place and me putting you on the same diet as somebody who's 300 pounds and 80 years old versus a 25-year-old at peak health. It's extreme, it's irrational, and it's not going to work. Thank you.
Next, please. Other speakers, please.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? I'm going to speak through my shield. This is what I do at work. I'm going to speak through my mask. I do hope you can hear me. This is, my name is Dr. Kevin Weiland. I'm an internist. I've been practicing in this community for 22 years. I really take issue with the opinion that this virus is nothing more than a flu. In the last 2 weeks or a week alone, we've seen more deaths from this virus than we did from influenza in this state for the whole season last year. Our hospitals are overwhelmed. Our ICU beds are full. The stress in our frontline workers is immense and it's intense. Additionally, we are caring for the COVID long haulers. Those are the ones that survived in the hospital and came back and are seeing me in my clinic. Chronic fatigue associated with memory loss, mood changes, mood swings, depression, brain fog, shortness of breath with exertion, chest pain sometimes, chronic dry cough from lung damage, muscle aches, joint aches. These are just to name a few of these symptoms. Like HIV, like genital herpes, like chickenpox that ends up 30, 40, 50, 60 years down the road from a childhood illness is causing herpes zoster and pain and suffering for a lot of patients. These viruses did not go away. Guys, this is a new virus, a novel virus. And only time will tell, because it's so new, if we're going to have chronic disease afterwards. Now, early on in the pandemic, the CDC recommended that we wear a mask if we're sick before we get isolated. Again, a novel virus. They're saying now more and more that the asymptomatic carriers, 1 to 5 days of incubation period before their symptoms occur, are spreading the virus. There's more studies coming out. Let's just remember that, first of all, surgeons wear a mask all day long. I put a pulse oximetry on my finger when I'm wearing this N95 mask and I'm walking fast up and down the hallway, and my pulse oximetry, because I have good lungs, is 95, 96%. To say that you retain carbon dioxide, that's ridiculous. This protects not just the wearer from everyone else, this protects you. These are, when you talk, aerosoled into the air, and it can last in aerosol part in an unventilated room. Perhaps this can last there for 6 to 8 hours. Droplets, that's when you cough or sneeze. That's why I wear a sneeze guard, because I'm trying to protect myself, but I'm trying to protect you. As you speak, you aerosol. As you cough or sneeze, you got droplets, and it goes at least about 6 feet away. Back to an article published in the Annals of Internal Medicine, they noted that there were 3 observational studies for the SARS, one, as well as the MERS, COVID. And these studies suggested that mask wearing protects the community and the householders. Both SARS and MERS, COVID, are coronaviruses, just like the COVID. Now, you guys, it's just time to wear a mask. It's not just to protect you, but it's to protect your neighbor and your community. Our efforts to reduce morbidity and mortality can work hand in hand with a viable economic system. Giving our citizens the confidence by masking is an easy way to protect lives and save business. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
My name's Doug Langworthy. I am the owner, operator, and head instructor of Rushmore Jukite Jiu-Jitsu here in Rapid City. I take issue with the doctor. I looked, as a business owner, jiu-jitsu is a really close art. We wrestle with each other. Last night I had people literally touching face to face. We have yet to have one case, but we're careful. The next thing is, I have family and friends that work at the hospital. The hospital is not overrun. It makes me mad. We have over a 99% survival rate. Those who have the issues have other issues. Morbidity, you know, the overweight, heart problems. So it's the mask. The CDC's own website says the masks that you're all wearing there are good for maybe 5 minutes. Then they're saturated. The virus is blown right through. And of course, to breathe, you have to suck in deeper, which means that if it doesn't work, you're sucking the virus in deeper into your lungs. So if it doesn't protect you, what is the point of wearing one? It doesn't make any sense to me. And really, that's all I have to say, is to me, the mandate is not correct. You should not be telling me how to live my life. It's my body and my choice. I'm 66 years old. I have a target on my back because of my age, and you guys shouldn't be telling me how I should be living my life. And if the mask does work, then my not wearing one and you're wearing one because you're afraid, you should be safe. And all the people you come in contact should be safe. If it doesn't work, if it doesn't keep you safe, what's the point? What is the point? Except to keep me under your thumb, under control. And that's not right. This is the United States of America. We're supposed to be free. Thank you. That's all I have to say.
Next, please.
Hi, my name is Deb Baker, and I wish you guys could talk to me, because I'd like to ask what makes you guys think that my rights are different than that guy that was just in here that's pretty hysterical. He's the reason that people are like they are, because he scares the crap out of people, and there's no reason for that. 99.9% of us are going to be fine. I have Melissa that was here is my nurse practitioner. I have a pretty serious lung thing going on right now, and I'm not afraid of this thing, because I believe if I have a strong immune system, and I think most people do, and that's why they're fine with this. That's not what I meant to say, but I would like to know why his rights might be more important than mine, or the 50% of us out here that believe our rights are being violated. And I don't understand that. I don't understand why they're more important than we are, and why you guys would even consider a mandate. I know that you guys have probably seen a lot of data that says, you know, that has the narrative that you're basing your decision on. I've seen a lot of data that says that these aren't, they're ineffective. They don't do anything. There's a study out from Denmark that flat shows that it doesn't, they don't do any good. They actually make you sick. If they were working, I would question why our kids are not in school. Why is our school system shut down if these masks are working? Because those kids have been mandated to wear them. They're making them sick, but they've been mandated to wear them. So why is our school system shut down if these things work? I'd like to know that. It should be a personal choice for individuals and for businesses. If someone feels safe wearing a mask, then by all means wear it. I don't feel safe wearing one. I don't. And I don't think I should have to wear one. And this narrative where theirs protects me and mine's supposed to protect them makes zero sense. Where is the science on that? Somebody tell me where the science is on that. It doesn't make any sense. It can't work one way and not the other. So that just does not make any sense. I just basically, and also about the hospitals that he said that is full, there's pods that are empty because they don't have nurses. We need nurses. It's not because the hospital is full because of it just being full. It's full because we don't have nurses. So I just would like to have you guys reconsider what you're talking about doing. This is just insane to most of us. It's a violation of my rights. It's a violation of her rights, and it's just not right. So that's all I have to say.
Next, please.
Good evening. My name is Joanna Smith, and most of you should have gotten an email from me with studies showing why masks don't work. But I'm not here to talk about research right now. I'm asking you, what is your line? And where are you drawing the line in the sand? How far will you encroach on our lives before you say enough is enough? So before you vote yes to a mandate and take on the responsibility of my health and the health of every single person in this room, I ask that you have written on your paper, how far are you willing to go? I'm a native Minnesotan. They started with mask mandates. They are now, the mask mandate didn't work in Minnesota, and now they're going to a full-on lockdown again. They're heading to a full, where are you going to stop? Are you going to stop at a mask mandate, or are you going to stop at a lockdown? Are you going to stop at 14 days to slow the spread and give our hospitals enough time? Or are you going to go further? Have it written down if you are voting yes, or I guess even not. have it written down how far you will go and how many rights you will encroach on before you take on the responsibility of the health of every single person in our city. That's all I gotta say.
Mayor Allender, City Council, thank you for the opportunity to speak to you tonight about a very important subject. Unlike my predecessors that spoke before me, I'm actually not here to talk about the efficacy of a mask mandate. I'm here to ask a very simple question. Where do you derive your legal authority to begin this discussion in the first place? And let me be clear about the 2 points I want to make. First, that the South Dakota legislature on specifically March 30th of 2020 introduced Senate Bill 191. And according to the governor's attorney and representative on that issue, Mr. Matt McCauley, a gentleman I respect greatly, that was introduced to provide clarity for the title of the bill, which stated, and let me quote, provide emergency authority to municipalities in the event of a public health crisis. See, as Matt McCauley explained before the Senate and the House clearly, that the issue had risen because numerous city attorneys throughout South Dakota realized that under South Dakota Codified Law 34-22, that was awfully dyslexic of me, that actually the South Dakota Department of Health, in a state emergency, as we have been declared, has the overriding authority. And more importantly, Matt McCauley in that presentation clearly presented and laid out on public record, and I'm glad to see that we are also joined by one of our honorable state representatives that can verify everything I'm saying here tonight, but that if Senate Bill 191 was defeated in the House, that it would obviously set a precedent that the interpretation that South Dakota Codified Law 34-22, South Dakota Department of Health, has the overriding legal authority to make these deals. In addition, Representative John Hanson, an attorney at law, and now, I'm proud to say, is now the newly elected House Speaker Pro Tem, a gentleman that I think will serve us well, clearly laid out the other issue that you've heard repeatedly tonight, and that is the deprivation of rights. But let me give a name to that. That falls under Chapter 42 of the United States Statute Code under Section 1983. And it's called a Section 1983 claim because, and it's very hard to prove, but in this instance, I think you gentlemen might actually end up crossing the line if you choose to pass this tonight, because in order for somebody to sue a governmental entity and sue you, gentlemen, not just in your official capacity, but personally, would be to prove that you willfully deprived people and denied them their constitutional rights and knowingly did so. The fact of the matter is tonight, we have public records that show that you should have known and probably do know now that I'm giving you this information. I hope you checked your emails because I provided you all the documents, including audio clips of what I'm saying. But you need to tread carefully because I truly, honestly question your legal authority to act in this manner tonight. And I hope that you do seek counsel because, frankly, this is more than just one body or one city. This is about preemption of a local government over the state authority, and it's wrong. Not to mention, unless I forget, I would also last say there should be a strong ethical and moral argument that against taking these actions, namely that until such person is proven to be a threat or harm against others, dictating actions that interfere with the daily lives and freedoms of others is intrinsically oppressive and is antithetical to the values of America. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, my name is Trudy Laren. Some of you might know my daughter, Tommy Laren. She couldn't be here tonight, but she asked me to read this message to the council and to the residents of her hometown. Regarding the mask mandate, I know the council may think that a citywide mask mandate sounds like the safe and healthy thing to do in order to appear cautious and responsible, and I understand that I assume the council has the best intentions. But let me caution you and the rest of the city with this message before you move forward with what would be a big mistake. Take it from somebody who lived in Tyrannical, California for several years. Once you open the door to tyranny and control, you can rarely close it. Mask mandate policies have not been proven to make an impact difference on COVID cases. If they did, cities and states with the strictest policies, enforcements, and infringements would not be experiencing skyrocketing case numbers. Take California and New York, for example. But do you know what the cities with the strictest COVID policies, enforcements, and infringements have in common? Destroyed economies, lost livelihoods, crushed dreams, and the constant fear of the next mandate. And I know the council says this mask mandate is just a small step and gesture, but don't be fooled. Once the restrictions and infringements begin, they do not stop. This is a test of what freedoms you are willing to give up. See, the problem is so many folks have gotten so used to tyranny that they don't recognize it anymore. While the government closing your business, mandating what you wear on your face, where you can travel, and who you can see, and how many people you can invite to your own home is tyranny. Don't think all that couldn't happen in Rapid City, South Dakota. You'd be wrong. Once elected leaders or bodies take an inch, they take a mile. And I ask the council this: do you not trust your own residents enough to allow them to make their own decisions about their health and well-being? If businesses want to mandate masks, that is every bit their right, but for a city government to mandate what people wear across their face is an overreach of power. And to those who view masks as a courtesy to others, that's great. You are welcome to wear them, but to assert others must do the same or be slapped with a city fine is ridiculous. And I'll tell you this, the good and decent folks who don't wear a mask but don't want to cause a scene will simply stay home, and so will their dollars. It's not the big guys that are going to suffer. Walmart, Target, and all the big chains will still cash in on your local dollars. They are deemed essential businesses. But what about the small local store or restaurant? If folks don't want to hassle with a mask, they will simply cut out their leisure and consumer activities altogether. Then who suffers? The city of Rapid City, and once again, the little guys. And once again, I say, if you're scared of COVID, stay home. That is your right, but don't infringe on the right of others. So I ask the council and the residents of Rapid City to think long and hard about this first step down the infringement road. Once you give up your freedoms, you will likely never get them back. Do not California your South Dakota. Because truth is, South Dakota and the great cities that make up our state are about the only places where freedom, liberty, and personal responsibility still hold out. God bless and take care. Signed, Tommy Laren. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, please.
Hi, my name is Jody Mockbee, and I just freshly moved from California. So everything she said is true, and I'm here. I did email most of you about our experience at the library with my 14-year-old autistic child. It was absolutely heartbreaking to experience him being mortified publicly over his condition. And I just kind of wanted to give you from my experience from living in California, and seriously, we've been here just a month. As soon as the mandate took place, something happened and shifted locally, and it wasn't positive. What happened is the government took control, and then all of a sudden, it's left to the police department to enforce. And they decided that it was unconstitutional to enforce the mandate, so they wouldn't enforce it. So then it took the power into the hands of the people, and they became snitches. And so you have your neighbor telling on you for leaving your home with a friend or for attending a restaurant without a mask, and you have this kind of snitch situation, but because you don't have the police department enforcing it, then they moved to the health department. And so we saw friends lose businesses left and right because while they had an autistic employee working for them, the police department wouldn't enforce the mask wearing on that autistic employee. So then the city health would come and lay an $18,000 fine on them. And so what happened as a result of this was complete chaos. In our small town, beloved town that we did not want to leave, but we did because of what was happening, we saw just complete mistrust of the citizens to their government, complete mistrust of citizens to each other, and that was what I don't think it can ever be repaired. So I would just ask you to consider the fact that by making a mandate, you're opening the door for your city to mistrust you, your police department to not enforce what you're asking them to. And when you have that loss of trust, then you lose power. And then we've seen what happens when the police department loses power. And I didn't move here for that to happen. And so I just urge you, I know it sounds silly that just one mandate is a slippery slope, but it is, and I was able to witness that and watch that. Also, inconsistencies happen, and they're already happening here in the city. So, like I mentioned with the library, it's a public place, yet it requires that you cannot wear a bandana, you cannot wear a gaiter, yet the ordinance that that I read through on the mask mandate said you can wear a gaiter, you can wear a bandana, you can have a medical exemption, yet the library does not allow my 14-year-old autistic child with the rest of my 4 masked children to walk in, but he has a medical mandate. This is from his mental health doctor that's mandated that he does not have to have a mandated mask, that he cannot do that. Yet the library is enforcing it and turning him away. So I just want you to know that it's impossible to be cohesive once you start opening this door. The police department, it's going to be up to the discretion of each cop. So you're not going to have a cohesive agreement there. You're not going to have a cohesive agreement with the public schools and the library. It's already, that's proven. The public schools are saying you can have a medical exemption, and the library is saying you cannot. Both are public sectors. So I would just encourage you, once you open this door, you're going to have all types of inconsistencies, and that loses the trust of the people because they don't know what to hold on to. So that's my personal experience from coming from California. I really appreciate, I know all of you guys are putting a lot of time and effort into researching and hearing the voices, and I just want to thank you for actually listening to us. That in itself is something that we weren't able to do in California, so thank you for that. I really appreciate it. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Jody Fry, and as most of you know, we have a downtown business where we allow our customers to choose if they would like to wear a mask or not wear a mask. We offer curbside if they feel more comfortable. That's our right as a business to offer that to our customers, and not everyone here is not wearing a mask just because we're trying to prove a point. I have a medical condition where 5 inches of my windpipe was crushed, and I cannot wear a mask, but if that wasn't the case, I probably still wouldn't wear one. I've been contacted by several businesses downtown and restaurants, social places, and they couldn't make it, but they were certainly hoping that I would speak out on their behalf. As we know, earlier this year, we saw the unnecessary economic crisis that shut down our town earlier this spring. We had hospitals prematurely stop taking care of patients when we didn't even have a case of COVID yet. Patients did not get the treatment they needed for regular medical problems in the anticipation of the China virus hitting. Many nurses were furloughed. Is the hospital really near capacity because of nursing shortages and not a bed shortage? We had businesses labeled as non-essential. Every business and job in this town is essential to the person who owns the business and the people who work there. Every citizen has the right to shop in a place or dine in a place that they're comfortable being in. Just like the last shutdown the city council had done, they targeted the small businesses, usually locally owned restaurants, bars, casinos, anything that was a social place. I'm concerned about some of the things that people have said, like Florence commented her neighbors want to shop online or go to other communities, and we need that business here. And we need you to support the local businesses. Now we see the same thing happening with mask mandates that could be detrimental to our businesses. However, we know from the last time we were all here that shopping at the big box stores had no requirements put on them. Families and groups of numerous people were shopping together. Once again, with this mask mandate, and specifically targeting dining establishments, where you're hurting businesses and their employees. We lost restaurants and businesses downtown from the last mandate that this council pushed on its citizens. Those businesses will never reopen. Many essential jobs were lost. To limit restaurants to seating 4 people out of a possible 5 or 6 in a family is utterly ridiculous. Now it is being suggested that families are not to eat together if there's more than 4 people, and drinking alcohol is not recommended, but they can still shop together as a clan in a big box store. This is un-American and ridiculous. We don't need or want to be ruled. America is about freedom. We will decide for ourselves and what is best for us and our customers. On my final note,
I would like to mention that we recently had a school board member step down because he moved out of the area he was elected to represent. He was honest and showed integrity to the citizens in that area by resigning. Mayor Allender, I have a question for you. If you called 911 from your house, would Meade County answer? Thank you for your time, and I strongly encourage no mask mandate.
Next, please.
Hi, my name's Ruth Beery. My husband and I have 5 kids together. I'm not a scientist. I have no statistics for you. I have a mother's heart. And when my son asks me, are we going to get arrested if we don't wear masks? How does that make you feel? Are you proud of that city where your children are afraid of the police officers? The very people they should trust. When she yells out, when other people are talking, I cover her mouth. Does that remind you of anything? People aren't going to step up if they're afraid. You are the ones in power. We were elected to represent people. Please think of your people and not yourselves. This is about our future, about our children. Masks are divisive. They turn police officers, federal agents against citizens. They turn neighbors against neighbors. Is that the South Dakota you want? Is that the South Dakota you dream of? Because it's not what we dream of. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Hi, folks. My name is Steve. I appreciate you guys listening tonight. I am wearing a mask tonight just in respect of this establishment and you folks who had asked to do that. And I am speaking in opposition of masks in hope that we vote against this tonight. I'm perfectly fine wearing a mask in private establishments and places like that if they so choose. But I do think, as many people have pointed out, it should be a choice of the people of Rapid City. I'd also like to briefly speak about just the humanity of it, which I think is at the root, and something I've noticed, since January. So we've almost had a full year of people wearing masks to some extent. And just the social interactions that are no longer there and that we miss on a daily basis. When I go out shopping, just the faces I miss that you're used to each day, just being able to see people on that level. I think that's a big thing. And I think with our kids and our generation growing up, we don't really know the effects that will have of them not being able to see people face to face and what effects that will have on them. So I would urge you to consider that. So as you vote on this, I just ask you vote as humans rather than politicians, and keep Rapid City. When this all blows over, I think we'll be much happier with Rapid City being a community of humans rather than whatever else may come of it. Thank you, folks.
My name's Nick Erie, and thank you for letting me speak tonight. It's my understanding that the votes have been had, that's why we're having this meeting. But did the people that are voting for this, have you read this ordinance? And I went ahead and made an edit list. Whereas the City of Rapid City has the authority pursuant of SDCL 929-1 to pass the ordinance for the purpose of promoting health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community, and I think you guys need to take morals. It needs to be crossed out. The government has no business legislating morality. Just look at the history. Prohibition's one. It looks like a political agenda to me. Who is going to be judged and shamed for not wearing their mask? This is virtual signaling, the action or practice of publicly expressing opinions or sentiments intended to demonstrate one's good character or the moral or correctness of one's position on a particular issue. Whereas, in the last few weeks, the number of active cases of COVID-19 have accelerated rapidly in both South Dakota and Pennington County. And, add the line, mortality rates have been dropping and are currently less than 1%. Whereas, increase in the number of active COVID-19 cases has caused corresponding increase in the number of people hospitalized, which is straining the capacity of the city medical facility, and add, the nurses I talked to say there's an economic incentive to inflate these numbers. What about individuals that have COVID-19, then come back for something else, and then they're counted twice, which I think that guy was talking about. Whereas, it's important that control measures be taken to reduce and slow down the spread of COVID-19 in order to protect the health and safety of the city residents, especially for seniors and those with underlying health conditions, and make them particularly vulnerable to COVID-19. And I think a more appropriate control measure would be to arrest our seniors that are out in public. Whereas the CDC and the vast majority of medical professionals are recommending the use of face coverings by public to slow the spread of COVID-19. And what medical professionals? What is majority? What is vast? This statement is a hyperbole. This is political. Whereas the city implementing the mandate that people wear face coverings in public in the hopes that they will slow the spread of COVID-19, avoid the need for further restrictions on businesses and limitations on public gatherings in the city, and, again, the hopes of. There's no science here. What about Sweden? Whereas the Common City Council of Rapid City has determined that it is the city's best interest to adopt requirements so that face coverings be worn in public is an effort to slow the spread of COVID-19 and prevent the city's medical facilities from being overwhelmed by a recent surge in positive cases. When I read this ordinance, all it is framed for this outcome, but really what it should be saying is, we're going to pass an ordinance so we can virtual signal. This is a political agenda. My own personal testimony, I suffered from chronic sinusitis for over 18 years of my life. I was healed by a natural guy, sinus survival. He treated my gut. It was a candidus yeast infection in the mucous membrane. These masks will cause a candida yeast breakout. That is a fungal pathogen. And I could support this if you add the following sentence. Whereas Nick Urey is exempt from this city ordinance.
Me too.
Next, please.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and City Council members. My name is Calvin Luke. I'm in John Roberts Ward in Ward 4. And I come this evening to speak out against this mask mandate. This is tyranny, unadulterated tyranny. We are going down a slippery slope in the city, and you, Mr. Mayor, will be in deep doo-doo with the federal government. Is that what you want? You're already in trouble for pushing that person in the door, in front of the door, and you think that you're above everybody else, and you're going to have to answer for your wrongdoing. You, Mr. Mayor, will face the God on Judgment Day for what you've done. And this mask mandate is wrong. I'm speaking on behalf of the veterans that fought and died for this country and paid the ultimate sacrifice so we would be free from tyranny. My father was a Korean War veteran. By God, he fought for this country. And you know what? The Department of Defense come home in Kimball, South Dakota, and told his family that he had been killed or missing in action. He received a Purple Heart. And they come home, and he showed up on his doorstep of his family's home on a Sunday afternoon for a chicken dinner. His family thought that he had been killed or missing in action. This is wrong to enforce this mask mandate on the people that are claustrophobic or people such as myself or the lady previous to me with her autistic son. I'm on the autism spectrum, and this is wrong. This is tyranny. Do we want to be another New York, another California, another Michigan? Right now, there is a purge underway to have Governor Whitmer recalled out of office for her actions of lockdowns and mask mandates. Mr. Mayor, are you willing to accept that if that happens, that you're recalled and you're forced out of office? You're railroaded out of town on the rail? Is that what you want? It will happen. And this thing with the media giving us this fear factor, it's a bunch of BS. Letting the mainstream media dictate our lives. No. We are told in the Bible that there's more viruses that are coming down the pike that are worse than this COVID-19. A lot worse. One third of the people of this world will be taken away from death and Hades. Read that in your Bible. That is all I have to say. Thank you.
Next, please.
Good evening, members of the council. Thank you for your time.
I think we might have turned the microphone down just a little bit. Maybe we can turn it back up for you.
Sorry, yeah.
You got that, Michael?
Is that better?
Just speak up just a little.
Sorry. Thank you for your time tonight listening to us. I appreciate it. I'm just here to ask for a no vote on this mandate. My family just moved here from Colorado just a few weeks ago. We moved here to get away from mandates and lockdowns and executive orders that were having a significant negative impact on my family, my children, our way of life. Sorry, I'm nervous. Denver has had a mask mandate since May, and Colorado as a state has had it since July. And cases there are skyrocketing. The masks have not slowed the spread, and I am not sure why at this point in the game we would enact a mask mandate after all this time. I think that people get a false sense of security when they wear them, and they don't practice good hygiene. They don't stay home when they're sick, and I think those are the things that we need to be encouraging people to do. I know that we all want to do something to help. I definitely do. You know, I don't want people to be sick. I don't want people to be in the hospital. I don't want people to be dying, but we need to do the things that are going to help. And studies are showing that the masks are not helping. People are still getting sick in equal numbers, whether they're wearing the mask or not. They estimate that places that have the mandates actually have a very high rate of compliance, and yet they're still seeing cases skyrocket. I don't think this is the right thing. We had a lot of bullying in Colorado as a result of the mandate. Our own governor swore at us. He called us names. I won't repeat them here, but it was pretty awful to see that coming from our elected officials. I think that the mandates encourage bullying, and I have witnessed it in front of my young children, and I would urge you to vote no on this mandate. I don't think it's the right thing for us. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for hosting this tonight. I'm Julie Fry-Mueller. I'm a state representative, and I would like to thank those that talked about Senate Bill 191 and House Bill 1297. I would encourage everybody to look those up to see what they involved and who brought those bills, and I'm grateful they did not pass. Another thing I'd like to say real quickly is I was disappointed to find out this was only 2 days' notice, and that knowing more than likely we would have large crowds, that this wasn't put at WDT so that more citizens could be in here and have even more interaction. Another thing I'd like to say is thank you to all the people here who are getting active in your government, your local government. It is so important, as you can see. And it is also my understanding, sadly, that most of you have made your decision already, regardless of the fact that you're hearing from the people you represent. You are here to represent them, just like I am at the level where I am and where Representative Mullally, who was here earlier, where she is. It is our job to represent the people. And knowing that you guys already probably have it in the bag with your votes, That's not uncommon. That kind of stuff unfortunately happens in Pierre as well. But I've only heard Dr. Weiland as absolutely against it, and the other gal that I wasn't quite sure about. You are hearing from the people. Let us, no, excuse me for saying let. I don't need anybody to let me do anything. None of us need to let you tell us what to do. We are Americans. And as far as I'm concerned, we all can make our own good decisions. We are. We care about the people in this community. We care about them. And we will make good decisions for us, and they will make good decisions for themselves. We all care about each other. Nobody's going out saying, oh, I think I'm going to get somebody contaminated. That's my goal today. No way. And I'm going to read real briefly here. Representative Liz May sent everybody a letter, but I'm going to read it so it's for the record. Mask mandate. What I've experienced as a small business owner on the reservation, mask mandates have caused a false sense of security among the public. Prior to mask wearing, people were cognizant of social distancing and using hand sanitizer and washing their hands more frequently. The general public is not physically comfortable with mask wearing, which leads them to constantly make adjustments, which increases the likelihood of exposure to contamination. Out of 16 employees, all have been through COVID. Out of 16, 14 of them wore masks diligently. I realize we feel the need to do something, but mask mandates have no scientific proof they work. Encouraging citizens to social distance, wash your hands, and don't touch their face, and if you're sick or vulnerable, stay home. That will go a long way in fighting COVID. And she says, thank you for your service, Liz May. So that's from Representative Liz May, who has a small business, who has dealt with this. I am asking you to reconsider. If you are a no vote, look at everyone here and everyone down in the basement, and overwhelmingly, we're saying we can make our decisions, and we don't want government making those for us. Thank you.
Good evening. I've never done this before, but I feel very strongly about the issue at hand.
Name, please.
My name is Crystal Kessler. Sorry about that. I'm actually another one of the very many recent transplants to the wonderful state of South Dakota. I have gotten nothing but open arms, welcomes, smiles, and I bring a perspective back to you that your guys' state, this city specifically, is a shining light to America. We were set up to buy a home back in our other state. We had our kids in school. This stay-at-home mom finally got to go back to work, participate in society. COVID hit our state, and everything, like many other people's, just fell apart. So we made the choice, instead of being told what to do by our state governor and by our state mayor, we actually pulled our kids out of our public school system, so they lost dollars. I am now a homeschooling mama, and it's pretty wonderful. You guys have an awesome homeschooling program here in Rapid City, South Dakota, and I just want to encourage you guys to continue to be that wonderful light of freedom to the rest of America. I have so many friends back in my home state who are like, what's it like? Does it smell like freedom? Is it wonderful? And I get to tell them, yes, please come. And we're bringing people here. Their dollars, their revenue, their incomes, it's all coming here because you guys stand for freedom. And to echo what other people have said before me, the state that we just moved from started with a 2-week small thing. You know, we love our residents of this state. If you could just do this for 2 weeks just to curve it. And here we are so many months later. Our governor actually continued to say for Thanksgiving that, quote, the more family members that make the decision to self-quarantine, the more likely it is that you're not bringing a loaded pistol for grandma's head. That is the governor I left. I came here for freedom, for what you guys can provide for us. So I really encourage you to continue to vote no on this mask mandate. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Zsuzsana Macaulay, and I'm from Hungary and live in this country for 20 years. I am a resident of Rapid City for 17 years, made many longtime friends, and I am a citizen of this country for 14 years. I have been voting for 14 years. And I usually am not outspoken on political issues, but I feel that this is very important for everybody to realize how bad this country is going down. Hungary has been a former socialist country under Russian government back in 1989 when its change of regime happened. And that was about 35 years ago. And many of the mindsets are still there. Our rights were taken away. Our homeschooling rights were taken away. Our vaccination choice rights were taken away. Our say-so on what happens in the government were taken away. Mask mandates are a slippery slope for that, and I urge you to look at and vote no for this ordinance because it's a dangerous, dangerous first step for everything that is going to follow. I also would like to point out that there were some council members who voted no in the Sioux Falls ordinance last week, and they were threatened and had death threats against them, and there were public comments on their Facebook pages made. They should be executed with their families. And those people who are against mask mandates should be executed and lined up against walls. What kind of people are these? I do not want to be afraid for my life. I do not want to be afraid for my family's life. And I don't want to have to deal with people coming into my yard and or making threats against my family. This is not the way to go. You guys have to look at the bigger picture, and if you vote yes for this, then I will be sure I will be taking out my business from this town. I will be shopping around other places where there is no mask mandate. I will not comply. I will not go against this. And I'm sorry, but this is how it is, and I will be remembering which one of you voted yes. Thank you for your time.
Good evening. My name is David Beery, and I would wish to voice my opposition to the mask mandate tonight. I understand that there was no malice behind putting this forward, and it was out of a misplaced sense of compassion. But what you've done is put forth a measure that is inherently subjective, both in scope and in intent. Is the purpose only to slow COVID? Well, why not stop COVID if it's bad? We could mandate an absolute quarantine for 2 weeks and likely eliminate the virus, close down our borders, close down people's doorways. But we can see that those would have disastrous results. So we must recognize that the mask mandate is for something far less. Is this transmission reduction? Probably yes, but then to what extent? Do we also need a social distancing mandate? Will that compound the effectiveness? Do we need a hand washing mandate? Again, would compound the effectiveness. Do we need a, and here begins the quote, sanitize every can and bag in the grocery store that gross person just touched and put back mandate? We can see that there are a number of ways to compound the effectiveness of this particular mandate. Taken in a vacuum, it's just one little thing that could be done, but why stop there? So I can sympathize that the current pressure is to follow lockstep with every other executive action taken in various states. But that's hardly a reason to pursue such a course. If you think back to when you were a kid, your mother probably asked you if everybody jumped off a cliff, would you also do it? Yes. Probably not. Now, my wife and I came to South Dakota, much like many, many others have attested, because we want to live in this last bastion of freedom. So please do not take that freedom away from us. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Meredith Beery. That was my handsome husband you just heard from. And as he said, we just moved here from another state. That state often is known as the last best place. But we have looked at each other every week since we've moved here and said that Rapid City and South Dakota is truly the last best place. We have not regretted our move at all, and we had to uproot our lives and our children, and it was hard, and it was so worth it because it is so great to be a part of South Dakota. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and I have 4 small children. I'm expecting our 4th, and we are due with that in April. I just got a phone call from the clinic that I am going to saying that my husband is no longer allowed to come to the 20-week ultrasound to see his own child. Okay, so I get to go to that ultrasound to see if there's anything wrong with our child by myself without my husband who helped create that child. And if this mask mandate goes through, what else am I going to have to give up in my family for that? I take my small children, they're all under the age of 6, to the grocery store with me and to run errands. And each time I walk into a grocery store, people stare at us. I have had a man come up to me and tell me in a very threatening voice, this close from my face, "You're gonna die of COVID." In front of my children. I have people look at us like we are criminals because we are grocery shopping. And how does that make my small children feel? Every time we go to a store, they ask, are we gonna have to wear a mask? Why is that lady wearing a mask? Why is everyone wearing a mask? That is a scary place for a child to be. So I'm looking at my family and I'm looking at what we have to do for them. And a mask mandate is not it. I'm an adult and I teach my children what's right and what's wrong. And I can teach them that they can make their own decisions. When they grow up, they can decide what they can do. And that's not you telling them that they have to wear a mask. So please, keep South Dakota and Rapid City the last best place. Let us keep our liberties. Let us keep our freedoms. And let our children feel safe when they go grocery shopping. Let us go to libraries and to gyms. And also, I have to look down at April. When I give birth to my child, am I going to have to wear a mask? How many of you have given birth? Okay, we talk about how hard it is to work out with a mask on your face. Try giving birth with a mask on your face. Please vote no on this mandate. Thank you.
Next, please.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. My name is Kaylee Clark. I am, like many others before me, a new resident of South Dakota. My husband, my family, and my 2 children. We uprooted from California, and we moved here 3 weeks ago. And I am going to tell you right now that was really hard. That was really hard. We know not a single person in this town. And we were willing to make that sacrifice for our family, for the freedoms. We have experienced COVID firsthand. My 34-year-old brother passed this last August due to COVID complications. I have a child who is medically fragile. If she was to contact COVID, she would suffer very greatly from it. But I am going to tell you right now, coming from California and having seen the devastation a mask mandate puts on our children, that this is not the way to go. I have had friends lose their children to suicide. I have friends lose their businesses. I've walked into a store with my child who was born prematurely and has respiratory issues and has been told by her medical practitioner she is not to wear a mask. I have been told that I need to leave a store, that she's no longer allowed to participate in her ballet sport. She's no longer allowed to participate in her homeschool community because she can't wear a mask despite being medically exempt. This scares me, you guys. This scares me more than you know. I have seen the joy in my children's eyes return. I have come to the state and taken my children to the grocery store with me for the first time since the lockdown. And they have walked through the store and been able to pick out what they want. They've been able to go and experience life again. And I'm going to tell you right now, if you put a mask mandate here, that is going to severely limit that. My child did not change. She still cannot wear a mask. And if I'm not able to take her to her ballet class, you guys are essentially taking the life out of her eyes. She lives for her social activities. She's 7 years old. She's a social butterfly. And it scares me to see you guys going down this road. Please know, I recognize it is very real. Like I said, I lost my brother in August. He was 34 years old. I understand there are severe repercussions. I also know that as an adult, I know that I can tell my children, I'm sorry, we're going to have to miss an activity today because mommy's not feeling very well. Or I'm sorry, your throat is a little bit sore, so we're going to play it safe and we're going to be cautious. We're going to wash our hands. We're going to boost our immune systems. We can't go play today. But I don't need to feel like an outcast when my child is not able to wear a mask and I'm asked to leave a store, and I don't. It just kills me to think of the idea that we just started ballet again this week, and it kills me to think I'm going to have to tell her, I'm sorry, honey, you can't go to ballet class because you can't wear a mask. So please consider saying no to this vote. Please allow us to be adults. Please allow us to be responsible citizens of our new community. Thank you.
Good evening. Thank you, Council and Mr. Mayor, for listening to everyone here. My name is Victoria Queen. I'm a real estate agent here in town. I also moved from Colorado, and I wake up every single day thankful that I live here in the Black Hills. I just want to, I'm not going to get into a whole bunch of stuff, but I want to say that I agree with so many people that spoke here tonight. I support the things that they are saying, so I'm not going to reiterate those. The one point that I did want to make is there's about a dozen states that do not have a mask mandate. And if you look at the states that do have a mask mandate, they have some of the highest death rates. So I urge you to look into those statistics. And I just want to say that I think the theme that's running through this meeting is we are adults, we can make our own decisions, we're Americans, and we're not about to give up our freedom. Thank you.
My name is Mike Zachmeyer. I live in Ward 3. My family and I support Governor Noem's position that people have the individual right to choose what means they want to take to protect themselves in this situation. My wife works at a place where the employer requires all the employees to wear a mask. She does so, and she realizes she has the choice to quit there, to quit her job if she doesn't want to wear the mask. When we go to stores, if they ask to wear masks, out of respect for them and their establishment, we wear the mask. If the masks are optional, we assume we can go without it, but if someone there looks uncomfortable, we make our way to we step around them and make sure to give them lots of distance. When we're aware of elderly and sickly people around us, we distance ourselves, even if the people have no masks on themselves and they're just out enjoying time shopping. So when we're out walking, we maintain social distancing, and anyone we meet, we kind of make a long way around them so that we're not infringing on their space, and everybody's personal bubbles have gotten a lot bigger these days. So in other words, we think we're observant, intelligent, and respectful people, and we honestly don't think that it is the place of the City Council to serve as our conscience or as our brain. As far as staying in your lane, I understand that the mayor, you have the authority to tell us in this building we should wear a mask. Business owners, they have the right to tell people that come and frequent their business that we should wear a mask if we're in there. And we can choose to come to those places or not. We can choose some of the other options that are out there. And people who don't want to be out in the public have options too. So those people that are potentially more susceptible, they can do the curbside pickup, or they can stay at home, or they can have other people bringing things for them. But we just ask that you would consider staying in your lane and not imposing unnecessary limits on everyone for the potential, and I use the air quotes on that, the potential benefit of a few. It's been said before, a lot of other states have had severe lockdowns and mask mandates for months, and it's not evident that they work. But I realize that government control is kind of a chic thing these days, and in our mind, one size, one type of fix does not meet everybody. It doesn't serve our community well. So should the City Council choose to pass this mandate, our family will engage others for appropriate legal recourse and take all possible political action to fight the mandate and overturn it. I hope if you have come here thinking you were going to pass this mandate, I hope that you will reconsider and choose not to. Thank you very much for your time and for your service to our community.
Hello, I am Connie Finenga, and I am asking you please to vote no on this mask mandate. As the ordinance requires that businesses to harass their customers to wear face coverings in fear that that one of their customers would then turn them in for non-compliance. This is beyond huge. So I'm looking every one of you in the eye, asking you please, Mr. Ritchie, and Greg, and Ron, and Lance, and Steve, and Laura, and Pat, and Jason, and John, and Bill, please vote no on this. Thank you.
My name's Christine Howell. I just came from California and complied with their socialist government in that state by the mask mandate that they've already instituted. Somehow, some way, I was on the plane, I came back, there was a woman from Homeland Security right next to me. We talked about she was going to a state where there was an influx of COVID patients that she had to go to. And that's all she does for Homeland Security, is go to all of these places that they have an influx of COVID, and she doesn't wear a mask except when she has to. I don't wear a mask when I go to the grocery store. I didn't wear it in California except when it was absolutely necessary. I didn't come back with COVID. I have a certificate in my bag that shows that I'm free from COVID. I came back with a cold, but because I had to wear the mask on the airplane, it exacerbated the situation, and I ended up with a worse cold. Now, that's what's going to happen to all these people with these lung issues. They're going to get sicker by instituting this thing. I don't understand why a woman can choose to do whatever she wants to her body, including killing her baby, but we have to wear these? It reeks of socialism to me. I was listening to that woman from Hungary. This is just the beginning. I'm urging you all, please, vote against this ordinance. Nobody has to be made to be told what and what they can't do with themselves. Everybody here is responsible. I stayed home when I was sick. I'm not contagious. If somebody goes out and does it purposely, yeah, they're the ones that are going to suffer for that. And other people too. But if you're a responsible adult, you should be able to be treated like one. Thank you.
Next, please. Any further speakers on tonight's item on the agenda? Okay, then we will close public comment period for tonight, and we'll go into non-public hearing items. Item 1, to approve ordinance 6453, an emergency ordinance requiring the wearing of face coverings in certain situations to slow the community spread of coronavirus COVID-19. We'll go to Jason Solomon.
Thank you, everyone, for sharing your thoughts. I also want to thank all of those who are working on the front lines, especially those in healthcare, doctors, nurses, healthcare professionals, our police, firefighters, military, all of those who work with people directly during this. No doubt about it, this pandemic is real, and we need to take proper precautions. A couple of months ago, I shared a Facebook video on my page where I laid it all out, that I thought we should take precautions. But I felt like folks should mask by choice, not by force. and my position remains unchanged. That said, today we are seeing a surge in South Dakota, as are many other states around the country, and of course we're seeing it around the world. It's awful. I know people who have suffered. I know people who fought back. I have family members working on the front line. My parents are EMTs. My wife is in nursing school in this new part of her journey, and I'm really proud of her. Obviously, I hear about what's going on. It is serious. We should take it seriously. And although we're not hearing from them tonight, a lot of the reason we're not hearing from them tonight is because they have to stay home. I mean, they're working in nursing homes and hospitals. And I know that there are people who feel other ways. I've heard a lot of feedback. I'm sorry I couldn't answer every phone call and text and message. There's hundreds. I try to respond, but boy, you know, you get off of work and you're trying to catch up to everything. So just so you know, if you didn't hear from me, I read it, but I couldn't respond to everything. But I also read the messages from those who are suffering and who are working on the front lines, and some really support a mask mandate, and I hear you, I see you, I understand. I also heard from medical professionals as well that said they don't want to go public with it, but they felt like a mandate was going too far, and I would agree. My position is that we should educate over mandate, respect over restrictions, and love over lockdowns. And what I would propose to the council tonight to deliberate on is, rather than this ordinance, which takes 2 readings and a publication period, it won't go in effect till sometime in December, depending on when our second reading is, that instead we work towards a resolution tonight, which is a one-time reading, where we can encourage the citizens of Rapid City to follow the guidance that we've heard from Monument Health, to follow the 3 W's. And the 3 W's are: wash your hands, watch your distance, so keep 6 feet from others, and when that's not possible, wear a face covering. And I think what we could do is send a strong message that we have 10 city council members here tonight from across the political spectrum and life experiences who could send a united message that says, while we have the entire city's attention, we encourage you to take these precautions during this time. It stinks. I hate COVID. Who hates COVID? I mean, I don't like it. I don't like what it's doing, not just physically, but I don't like what it's doing to us mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I don't like how it's dividing families and loved ones and friends and neighbors. It is, myself included. And just because I disagree with you, I love you. I care about you. And, you know, I have a very strong bias towards liberty and freedom. It comes from my veteran background. I know that because I believe that there's always the issue, and I wish it was just about the issue. But what so many of us know is it's not just the issue, it's the issue behind that issue. And that's really the problem with this, and that's why we have disagreement. I want to thank the media for letting me know I had a meeting on Thursday night to address this, because I first found out from you, so thank you very much. A few hours later, I learned it from the city. That communication I would appreciate being much better so that we can address this. I had to request the ordinance so that I could review it. That disappoints me. Please improve the communication when we're voting on something so significant. That would be really appreciated. But going back to this, City Council, I would urge you to consider this resolution as an alternative that let folks take precautions. And I would urge you citizens, take the precautions. Care about your neighbors. Do what you can. But I also will respect your rights to live your lives. And both can happen at the same time. You have to know when to stand your ground and when to seek common ground. Standing my ground by not mandating it, but I'm asking for common ground, that we show respect for one another during this season. And so with that, I look forward to the discussion of my fellow council members. I would love to hear what you have to say to that resolution, and see if we can get 6 of you to agree that this is the right path forward at this time, so that we can very swiftly help our community heal. Thank you. I yield.
Lance Lehman.
Thank you, Mayor. Jason, well said. Ditto. I do not support the ordinance as written, or at all, but I would support the resolution in a show of support tonight. Thank you, Mayor.
Okay, other speakers from the council on this item? Pat Jones?
Thank you, Mayor. I am thrilled to hear that from all the people who just moved to Rapid City. Welcome. It's great to have you here. Welcome to the last best place on earth. That is just the most amazing comment. Love it. Thank you. Welcome. You're in a great place. I have been all over the place on this issue. I've wanted to support it. I've talked with other council members about we need a mask mandate. I've said, I don't know if we do. I've been all over the place, like a lot of us have. And it's tough. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. I have always been a believer in cooperation over compliance. I've mentioned several times up here when I was principal at Rapid City Central, greatest job in the world. Once a cobbler, always a cobbler. How do we accomplish things with 2,200 kids and 150 adults? Cooperation over compliance. We work together. We agreed to cooperate on things and solve problems and not demand compliance. Compliance is, you know the speed limit is, and if you don't comply, you're going to get a ticket. Darn it. Cooperation is, I agree to do this because it's the right thing. They're very different. Any of us who are parents know that we hope that our kids will cooperate, but if not, they have to comply. So I much prefer cooperation over compliance. I have learned in the last several days that we are very, very proud residents of Rapid City and of West River. I've always believed we think a little different, operate a little differently, and once you finish your bottomless cup of coffee at Al's Oasis and go east, life's different. So I am proud to be from Rapid City and a West River guy. I support the right of our businesses to require masks. That's their business, that's their livelihood. If they believe it's in the best interest of their business and they want us as customers to wear a mask, we need to support that. I've heard from many business owners saying, please put something out there to support us so we know it's okay to ask people to wear a mask. Some have said, please vote for this. Some have said, whatever you do, don't vote for this. I've had people call me sad, crying on the phone, please support this. It's the only way we're going to make it through. And after hearing all of that, and over 100 emails today and phone calls, and like my colleague to my left, I don't know if I got back to everybody, but I sure tried, and I appreciate everyone that called. I cannot support an ordinance that includes fines up to $500 for not wearing a mask. That's just not what we're about. That's compliance. That's demanding compliance. And we can do better. We can do better than that, folks. There are people out there who don't give a rat's hiney as to what happens to you if you're at the store. Yes, I said hiney. But there's always going to be those. But we can do better. We can take great care of each other. We know what to do. I love that so many of us tonight have said, we're responsible adults. Let us be. Boy, that's a beautiful thing to hear, because it's not the case everywhere, as our new residents have told us. Bless your hearts for telling us that tonight. So I can't support the ordinance. I believe we need to do something. But I can't support the ordinance as written and consequence people. And the lady that said it created a snitch situation, oh, boy, you nailed it. That's the last thing we want. We want to support each other to get through this, not snitch on each other. So that's where I'm at. I cannot support the ordinance. I can't support doing something that would divide us and separate us even more than we are as a community and a country right now. I do support the resolution idea. I think it would do a lot of good things for us, because I do believe we need to do something, and we have an interesting resolution to look at, and I look forward to the rest of the discussion. Thank you.
John Roberts.
Excuse me, I was clearing my throat. I wasn't coughing. I feel very nervous when I do that anymore. And thank God it's time for me to speak because I can breathe now. As most of you have seen, I have been wearing a mask up here the last few weeks. I've been complying with the city mandate. I think that's important. You know, I still shop at Walmart, even though I hate to wear a mask in there. I wear a mask because they ask you to. My wife wears a mask all day long. She comes home and she's brain dead for a couple hours and then she comes out of it, thank God. But it's difficult, you know, it's difficult to give up these freedoms that we're used to having. It's difficult to comply when you don't want to comply, but there's times that you should comply. I will support this resolution. I will not support this ordinance. I think anybody that knows me and knows me from the discussion on closing businesses down 7 or 8 months ago, I was very adamant about not doing that at the time, and now we look back to the 8 cases I think we had when we shut the businesses down, and we think, wow, what were we doing then? But, you know, this virus, unfortunately, it's affecting everybody. I'm not immune to it. I've been affected personally within my family. I believe my wife and I had the virus, even though we didn't get tested, you know, and very early on. But I do have family members that have been in the hospital. I have a family member that's on a respirator right now. They've given him a 50-50 chance of living. But I do know that this relative would take freedom and liberty over, you know, what's happening in our country right now. People need to be responsible for themselves. People need to be, you know, helping one another. And it's sad to see how people are turning on each other. And I got the full brunt of that when I voted against, you know, not closing down businesses early on. I got the death threats that they're getting in Sioux Falls now. I got people that were calling saying that they hoped my wife and I got COVID and we died. You know, that's what it is. This is a really, really politically charged atmosphere right now with COVID. People are very strong on both sides. People have very strong opinions on both sides. I think that it's unfortunate that, you know, it's only been 10 months. There's not a lot of science out there. There's not a lot of studies out there, and there's a lot of contradicting studies on both sides. You know, and with any medical, with any virus, with anything like this, it takes years before you get all of that actual data out there. And people latch onto this, people latch onto that. But, you know, really what we need to do is we need to come together to get through this together. You know, and by taking away freedoms, we're not coming together. We're isolating people. It scares me to see what this is doing to kids. I got out of a board meeting for the Front Porch Coalition right before I came over here. Teen suicide in Pennington County is up 233% this year. That's scary. That is scary. And you can't tell me that's not being driven by this virus. People are losing hope.
You are the last party in the conference.
So
you will hear silence until the conference begins.
It's like that playoff music when you're at the Oscars and you're given a thank you
Oh, so you're
speech.
kicking me out of the queue. Well, that's good. I will not support this. I would support the resolution. Hopefully somebody will bring that forward. You know, I think that, again, we need to bring the community together. We don't need to separate it right at this point. Thank you.
Richie Nordstrom.
Thank you, Mayor. And I appreciate all the folks being able to come forward to voice their concerns about this proposed ordinance. But Mayor, if you would you, if it's possible, you take a message to Governor Noem and read the ordinance to her. I am here representing the voiceless, the people that are not here to protest. The people are making changes this Thanksgiving because of the family gatherings, and they're trying to make a determination whether they are going to be having a Thanksgiving this year and a traditional Thanksgiving. If you'll also share with Governor Noem that I hear the stories from the healthcare workers. I also hear from grandparents who have stories who can't hug their kids. I've also heard from expectant mothers who are worried about the unborn. There are many stories that the people make choices between health care, food on the table, or paying the rent. I've also heard stories from workers who can't go to work because of a sick child. And I don't know how many people who have insurance, but they need to go to a doctor or a hospital. I also don't know how many people who have sick leave or can take time off from work to care for themselves or their family members. These people and the other stories they share need help when they are doing the best they can. Please tell the people to mask up. Thank you, Mayor. I'll yield.
Greg Stroman.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also want to thank the members of the community who either wrote one of the 599 comments that came in through the city website, the hundreds of emails, the people that came here tonight and spoke, telephone calls, text messages. Obviously, we can't respond to all of them. There's only so many hours in the day. But I think it's important that the community be involved in the process. This mask mandate thing, probably a month ago, we wouldn't be having this conversation, but our world is changing every day, and the COVID-19 virus is exploding here and all over the world and all over our country. And right here in our community, our healthcare system is stressed. We know it's stressed. We're stressed in terms of space. We're stressed in terms of healthcare providers, nurses, other care providers. We're busting at the seams. And we have to see what we can do as a community to help that. And we all know that, the Monument has told us that, there's 3 W's: wear your mask, wash your hands, watch your distance. I don't think that wearing a mask is any great imposition, and I differ with the people who say that this is an affront on their freedoms. This is such a limited measure. And it's not based out of fear. I reject all this stuff about, oh, you guys are just, you're fearful. Don't let the fear take over. I'll tell you, the fear I hear is people that come up here and say, what's going to happen? We're going to become socialists if we have this mask mandate for a few weeks. That's not right. That's not going to happen. And, I don't even know if you're going to get a ticket if you're in a store without one. I do know that we have some businesses that have asked us to please pass this, because then people will feel comfortable and safe going to shop in their stores. It's not all one way. Everything cuts 2 ways. And the other thing that I really dispute is this, not even anecdotal, but just, it's almost folklore. Oh, masks don't work. Why do doctors wear masks if they don't work? I have a friend who I've known almost my entire life, and he is a consummate medical professional and businessman, compassionate man. He says, I've worn masks all my life. He started with cheap rags in his dad's body shop, filtering enamel and dust. And then an expensive mask was Then he had an expensive mask with a dedicated airline, basically a hazmat mask, after his mother chewed out his dad for not protecting him. His mother was a nurse. And then there was a mask that he wore for cleaning grain out of railroad cars. And then an MOPP 4-level mask for military chemical bio protection. He had protective mask gear as a combat engineer, platoon leader building Bailey bridges. Then an oxygen mask as a military aviator when he was over serving in Desert Storm. And then various types of surgical masks for 30 years while in the operating room, occasionally as long as 14 hours of stress and a stretch, and then a high-quality multi-filter paint mask while spraying lacquer. People use masks because they work. Some better than others, I grant you that, but it's not asking for you to give up your freedoms. It's not asking you to do some great thing, great sacrifice to wear a mask. I just don't get there. And you know, the good thing about living in Rapid City and in Pennington County is if you think that your rights have been violated and that this is something that's unconstitutional, we have some of the best judges in the land right here in our city, and the Constitution allows you to go in there and take it up with them. And one gentleman said that's what he was going to do. You're certainly invited to do that. But this talk about fear, that this mask wearing is a fearful thing, that's just a cop-out. The real fear is that you're going to lose your civil rights because you wear a mask for a couple weeks. I think that we need to have concern for others. The businesses are asking us for this because they don't want to be stuck out on a limb, because there are people that have politicized this, and so they will make it difficult for them if they try to enforce a mask or rule on their premises on their own. They want help from us. And then the last thing that I dispute is this, oh, well, there's only a 0.003% chance of death with this. There's a 99.997% survival rate, I've heard. Wow, that's the standard? You're not going to die? What about the 30 days you spend on a respirator in the hospital, struggling to breathe? There's some cost to this. And I think it's responsible for us to follow what the statute tells us to do. The statute in South Dakota says that every municipality shall have power to do what may be necessary or expedient for the promotion of health or the suppression of disease. And that's what the experts tell us this will do. It will help to suppress the disease. And so that is why I think we need to have a mandate that will, and this mandate is so narrow, but it will help to suppress the disease, and it will help us to get back to some sense of normalcy. At least until we get a vaccine, we have to take some more drastic measures because the times are drastic. And I'll just close with what I heard Sioux Falls Mayor Ten Aiken say at the end of one of his press conferences on the news. He said, "Wear the dang mask. It's not like we're asking you to sign up for the draft here." Thank you.
Bill Evans.
Can you hear me through this thing? Thank you, Greg. I think you summed up pretty much point by point everything I wanted to say. In particular, the one about store owners who've asked us to give an ordinance with some teeth to it, simply because having a resolution doesn't give them any kind of power to walk up to a person and say, "Excuse me, leave my store, you're in violation of a city ordinance." And I've had several people tell me that. And several came in as we were watching this display tonight. And so I...
Look, you can
Excuse
keep
me,
time out. You can
was
stay
the-
quiet, or you can leave this room, okay?
Was the middle of my sentence interrupting the beginning of yours?
No, but when you sit here in line, and when you
Hold
have
on.
when you have a mayor that lives in Meade County, who lives in Piedmont, going to enforce this mask mandate when you don't even live under it.
Okay, first of all, you can leave here, Nick.
Okay, where was I? I lost my train of
Start over.
thought. But I agree with Mr. Stroman on that. We do have those people. If the citizens choose not to walk in there because they're required to wear masks, so be it. But at least the owners, the managers of those stores have the right to tell people to leave then, and they have some authority to do that. Now, all through our society, we have these limits placed on us, whether it's speed limits on roads, whether it's insurance required to drive a car, whether it's zoning laws, whether it's the new smoking laws, all of these, one after one. It's put in place not to protect you, it's put in place to protect the person next to you. And it's about being a good neighbor and a good citizen. And people seem to be convoluting freedom along with obligations that we have in a society. And these freedoms go along with certain obligations and responsibilities. Now, I was particularly offended when I was walking up to this place tonight and I heard the meeting outside invoking the name of the Lord, and this position against a mask is actually some religious stance. Well, I'm going to read you the lyrics of a great Christian hymn called Make Us True Servants, because it spells out our obligations as leaders, not only of the community, as leaders of, as members of any faith, and just good residents of a democracy. Make us true servants to all those in need, filled with compassion in thought, word, and deed, loving our neighbor whatever the cost, feeding the hungry and finding the lost. Now, loving our neighbor whatever the cost, unless it requires me wearing a mask. I don't understand that degree of selfishness out of people. It breaks my heart. It really does. This is nothing.
Mayor, point of order. He's just, all he's doing is criticizing the people that came here tonight to give their point of order. Mr. Mayor, point of order. If he wants to sit there and criticize these people here, and they want to speak out against him, they should have that right. This is utter ridiculousness.
Okay, your point of order is taken under consideration and it's denied.
I'm going to finish
Evans has the
now.
floor.
I don't understand that. I don't see this as like I don't see this as a major inconvenience. I see it simply as loving your neighbor. And it's the least we can do to protect other people. I'm going to vote in favor of an ordinance. Thank you.
Ron Weifenbach.
And I've been on the council for one meeting, and tonight's another meeting. It is unbelievable that we allow this type of behavior. These people came here tonight in Groves, left their town on a notice, and I'll echo what Mr. Solomon said. The fact that we got notice of this from a constituent. Thank God my constituents in Ward 1 are adamant. They called me up, said, "What's going on?" I said, "What are you talking about?" "You're having a mask mandate meeting on Thursday." I'm like, "Oh, thank you." Then I come here and I listen to council people who think they're stating facts. We're not asking these people to do a thing. We're telling them what they have to do. We're telling them that we are smarter than them. That is an absolute shame, and I apologize to you, every one of you. I'm sorry. Hopefully we can redirect this train at some point and have a little bit of respect for you. I am in the community 24/7. I interact with almost every level of person in this community, from the homeless guy at the meter wanting some change from me, to the store managers of Menards, all these places, and not once have I ever heard anybody say to me, Ron, you need to go down there and tell me how to run my business. About the only time that I am the smartest person in the room is when I'm there by myself. And I want to let you know tonight, I can support a resolution. It is our responsibility and our accountability to take care of our health. I think we heard that tonight on several occasions. I choose to work out myself when I can at a fitness center. I've been doing it since 1985. I take care of my body. I pride myself in making my choices. If we really wanted to protect the people of Rapid City, we'd abolish alcohol, we'd abolish fast food, we'd abolish everything that we thought would lead to some sort of disorder or some sort of function or addiction. John, Mr. Roberts told you tonight, suicide rates on young people up 200%. Is that acceptable to any of you? No, it's not acceptable to me. We got to understand, if we want to have a resolution with the 3 Ws, I'm in support of it. What I'm really in support of is this council and this city getting back on track. We have a great county leadership, we have a great state leadership, but yet we have no relationship with them. They call me up on the phone and go, what is going on down there, man? When I left the council back in, I believe it was 11, and I think Mayor Allender might have been the chief of police at that point in time, I was tasked by the mayor at that time to abolish the, I believe it, the catastrophe plan that they had with the county, the city, because they just weren't getting it done. They abolished it, and I think the chief of police at the time, and I can't hold him accountable if it was Mayor Allender and Kevin Tome, the sheriff, and the chief of the fire department, Mike Marlsvern, they came together as a group and came up with real solutions. Real solutions, they didn't go out and say, man, if we have a catastrophe, you got to do this, that, or this, and that. We're going to mandate that on you. They didn't do any of that. What they did is put their collective heads together and supported each other with solutions. Well, guess what happened after that? The Atlas storm, the storm that, historical storm that devastated the city of Rapid City. And I guarantee you, they were ready to act. That's what we need to do tonight. I'm not here to tell anybody that I'm the smartest guy in the room, that I'm smarter than any of you, because I'll guarantee you there's something that you're smarter than me at. And we can find those assets, the mayor included. We'll find something that he's smarter than me at, and we will combine these efforts and come up with solutions, not mandates. People in this community are wearing their masks. Where are you guys getting this information that they're not? Because the numbers are spiking? Check out the other cities that are wearing the masks, have the mandates. They've been mandated since June. The lady from Hungary tonight, God bless her heart, I was in Hungary. It is probably one of the most thumbed countries in the world. And that lady, she's proud to be an American. I'm proud to be an American. I'm proud to be a Rapid Cityan. I'm here to stay in Rapid City, and I'm here to help you guys. I had roughly 50 phone calls from the moment that I found out that we were going to talk about a mask mandate tonight. And I sat here and I thought, man, I'm just going to shut my mouth and not say anything tonight and just vote against it. But then the reality came when I hear people saying, we're asking you to do this, or these people are crazy that they came here to support this and that their facts are incorrect. If you have facts, any of you up here have facts that prove that these masks are 100% unfallible, I'll take them. They are effective in surgeries and those types of things. I got the studies right here, all of them. You want to see them? I got them. I brought them. I'm not going to quote something out of my head that isn't real. I have them here. They're here. You can read them. They're new. They've just come out. They're sane. They're fallible. But the other thing is, I'm going to tell you the story here. Now, I don't want to take a lot of time. I've already taken enough of your time. But out of the people that called me tonight, 50 of them, 48 of them said, Ron, vote no. Unfortunately, I have not got a chance to read my emails because there was a glitch in me getting the link from the city. They have given that to me. I have that. I just haven't had a chance to get to it, so I apologize for you people. But one lady called me in particular and made me really think. She said, Ron, I'm 79 years old. I live in an assisted living. I want you to pass this mask mandate so I can get out of this apartment. I wanted to reach out and just give her a big hug and say, honey, that ain't gonna happen. This virus is real, it's here to stay. Anybody that suggests anything else from any of you, you all know it's real. Anybody that suggests that you don't think it's real, they need to go check themselves in the mirror, because that's where you're gonna find the real answer to your problem. We have people talking about personal responsibilities and accountabilities. That's what we're asking for. I don't see the big problem with people not wearing their masks. There may be a few, but I'll guarantee you, I sat on this council before and we passed a mandate and our ordinance that said, don't feed the ducks at Canyon Lake. And I called our chief of police the other day and I said, Don, when's the last time you gave somebody a ticket for feeding the ducks at Canyon Lake? He didn't know what I was setting him up for. If there is teeth, and I'll direct this, Mr. Mayor, I'll direct this to Mr. Evans. If someone comes into your location, and this is what the chief will probably, he will reiterate this, someone comes into your store, if I come into your store, I'm not wearing a mask, you ask me to put a mask on. I say no. I ask you, please leave. At that point, if you don't leave, there is teeth. The same teeth that you would have if you wasted your time passing a mask mandate, especially this one that's written in the way it is. And you want to talk about fear? There's fear written right in here, because if you read this thing, it tells you, if you don't do this, we're going to shut you down. That's what it says. Who's instigating the fear tonight? This or all of you who just want to practice your civil liberties, your personal responsibilities, and your own accountabilities? Trust me, don't vote for this, guys. Do not vote for this. What you can do is work together with the county and the state to find real solutions that real professionals and real leaders do. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Darla Drew by telephone.
Yeah, can everybody hear me?
Yes?
Okay. Well, I'm not there tonight because my husband had a test for COVID 2 days ago, and we don't have the results in yet, and I thought it'd be very disrespectful to show up. Even if I did wear a mask, I just didn't think that would be wise for me to be there. I would touch things, I would touch door handles, and who knows what else I could, somehow pass something on. So I'm at home. With this mandate, I do see a couple of holes in it that we might want to address. I mean, I don't see how we really affect the homeless population with this. They are a group that worries me a lot, and just don't know how that would proceed, but maybe the mayor can answer that later. As far as medical conditions that people have, I think if you have something on you that says, hey, I've got asthma, I've got, a collapsed lung or whatever you've got, or a crushed thorax. Oh, excuse me? Hello?
Yeah, you're still on.
Am I there?
You're there.
Okay. Anyway, we will be sensible. We are Rapid Cityans. We are sensible in the way that we conduct our business and our ordinances, I would hope. If someone with autism or has a problem, I hope we can be compassionate and still allow them to go places without a mask. Unfortunately, not all of our community is represented here tonight because the people that wear masks and are afraid of the virus wouldn't come down there tonight. So we have an audience full of people that are anti-maskers because the people that are really afraid of it, that really want to protect themselves from getting the virus, they're not going to show up. But they sure did show up on the online comments. We had about 600 online comments, and I read them. And they're about half and half. So people in the audience, just because you're surrounded by your peeps, it doesn't mean that you are the only group represented in this town. We have people that really, really want this mask mandate. And they're people that should know. An epidemiologist, a biological engineer, a neuroscientist and his wife is a nurse. You know, all of a sudden, I'm getting people that think they're microbiologists telling me all the facts that they think they know about this COVID. And they don't know. And so I think that if we ask people to wear a mask for a couple weeks, 4 weeks, we find that our numbers are still soaring, we're done. It's not a slippery slope. When we thought that we closed everything down and nothing happened, we opened it back up. We didn't go on and close the rest of town. We know when to stop. So if it's working, we probably keep up with it. If it's not working, it's done. It's a mask. We're not asking you to walk around on stilts or anything super difficult. We're saying just put on a mask. And for those that can't, we'll have to work out something special for you. Sioux Falls, Brookings, Mitchell, Kieran, they've all done this. They've all done the mask. You know, they put it in place. And for those of you that think that, well, we'll just throw the bums out if they put this through, well, it's not been a very pleasant place to be. I got a threat to be impeached today. I said, bring it. You know, I just, it's very, very hard to be in our position right now. Not only do I respect the people that showed up, but I'd like to see respect for the people that are on that dais, because we're in a very, very difficult position. Yes, we put ourselves there, but I didn't sign up for this. I didn't sign up for a pandemic, but it's where I am, and it's where I'm going to be responsible, because in some ways I really believe I was born for this minute. So I'm going to support this mask mandate because I think it helps my city. I am a lifelong Rapid Cityan, lived here all my life, and it's civic duty to protect the other people around you. And I couldn't agree more with Bill Evans and Greg Stroman and Richie, and I'm sure Laura's going to pop in here pretty soon. I think that this is the right thing to do. It's the right time to do it. And if we find it doesn't help, people, please have some confidence in us too. You want us to believe in you, believe in us. We've looked at this problem for almost a year. And, you know, we want to make some kind of a difference. So it stops in our community and we have our hospitals able to operate. That's what I want. I know that's what you want. You know it's out there. If we can stop it with a simple mask, let's just do it. Because it's time and it's right. And I'm sorry if there's people that just can't get along with this at this time and vote for it, but I'm going to vote for this because I want to protect Rapid City. And that's what makes it a great place to live, is that we protect each other. I yield.
Laura Armstrong.
For us to have to reveal why we are not wearing a mask. So just so, that was, she said that should be a
Okay.
reason.
Okay.
But it's against HIPAA violations.
Okay.
I'll leave.
You don't have to leave. She has her opportunity to talk. You had yours.
But I'm telling you, it's illegal for a business to ask me why I'm not wearing a mask.
Okay.
Because I have to reveal information about my HIPAA privacy.
Hey, thank you. That's enough. That's enough. I get it. Laura Armstrong.
I'd like to reclaim my time, please.
Go ahead.
Thank you. Believe it or not, I really do not want a mask mandate. Glad all of you are sitting down because you're probably shocked. In fact, I'm pretty certain you don't want to be here this evening, and we don't even want to address this ordinance. What we do want to do is come together and get back to normal. But how are we going to do that in the middle of a pandemic? We've been told we're all adults and we want to make our own choices. So let's discuss some of the choices that have been made recently. A 4th of July celebration at Mount Rushmore. Come one, come all. And it was specifically noted, don't wear a mask. Then again, we decided to throw the largest party on the planet in August, the Sturgis Rally. that a good choice? Labor Day, your choice to deliberately defy signage that is posted in private businesses and public buildings. So much for law and order. If a place requires if a place requires shirts and shoes, it's not an issue. Same thing with seatbelts, red lights, stop signs, road lanes, driving drunk. But now we're proposing an ordinance just asking people to put on a mask, do your business, and get on with your life. That's all the ordinance is saying. That's it. Those of you touting that masks don't work, you're wrong. Virologists, immunologists, our CDC, the NIH, the World Health Organization, our own state medical association, and the vast majority of our own local medical health care providers, they say and they know masks work. They're effective. These masks help our healthcare workers. They help our cancer patients, nursing home residents. They help us when we all wear them. Masks will keep our local economy thriving. Wearing masks gets us back to normal, where we want to get. Washing hands and social distancing, yes, they do help. But this is an aerosolized disease, and masks are an additional and effective measure. And fun fact, the flu is knocking on our door. Masks will help us combat the flu as well. For those of you saying that there's a high survival rate, you really do not understand the very real and lasting deficits that COVID can give you. They're classified as COVID survivors, but the lingering fatigue, the exhaustion, the lung scarring, the brain damage, and other irreversible physical ailments that change lives and our families forever. Hey, but they survived, right? And for those of you spouting freedom, you do not have the freedom to infect me and the general public. Our American freedoms are not absolute. Understand our individual freedoms are balanced with the health and the safety at the community at large. And our Rapid City community is very much hurting. During a pandemic, the greater good means temporarily implementing guidelines where citizens are asked to abide by practices that may protect themselves and others in order to preserve the resources and our structure of society and community. For the record, if you don't know, South Dakota is number 3 in the world for COVID per capita. That's not something I'm very proud of. Something needs to be done. A vaccine is on its way, we hope. And as much as I don't want this mask mandate, it's needed. The best solution for the time being is simply just wear a mask in public. It shows respect to our healthcare workers, our teachers, our first responders, essential workers, and all of our neighbors in our community. Whether this ordinance passes or not, please, please wear a mask. And that being said, I'd like to make a motion to approve the ordinance at hand. I'd appreciate a second. Thank you.
I think we're going to need someone else to make the motion since you already spoke on it. We have Richie Nordstrom in the queue, and I might have got mixed up, but I'm pretty sure you could be out of time, but go ahead quickly.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll make the motion to approve ordinance 6453.
Second by Armstrong.
This is okay.
And,
You are the last party in the conference. You will hear silence until the conference begins.
I hate that voice. Pat Jones, you have 10 seconds.
One other thing, thank you, Mayor, that I believe needs mentioning is the impact all of this is having on our families and our school kids. Our school kids are missing out on so much. They're on instruction, but almost more important than that, the necessary socialization they need to have. They're missing out on activities. They're missing out on so many things. We need to get our kids back to school and get life back to normal for them and their parents so they can grow and develop into the people that we want them to be. Thank you.
Okay, Ron Weifenbach, out of time, so make it.
Pardon?
Second, you're out of time, so make it very, very quickly.
Oh, so there's time limits tonight?
There's time limits, yep, 5 minutes. So,
Oh, if I'm out of town, I'm out of town. I don't want to break the rules because they all abided by the rules.
okay. Jason Solomon, also out of time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just want to make a motion to approve the resolution I presented following the Monument Health 3 Ws.
Time out. It's out of order. We have a motion on the floor for approval of the ordinance. That can wait pending the disposition of that vote. Where is a resolution?
Mr. Mayor, I would just, for the sake of time, we have a draft, but I would say, be it resolved that City of Rapid City urges the citizens of Rapid City to follow the 3 Ws that Monument Health has laid out, which includes washing your hands, watching your distance, meaning keep 6 feet or less between you and others, and when that's not possible, wear a face covering.
Well, 2 things. I believe it's still out of order because it takes the direction of the action in a totally different. It doesn't modify the ordinance. It's not an addition to the ordinance. However, I heard that. I heard that, but the substitute motion, it's not in any way. I'm in the middle of speaking. I'm just in the middle of speaking. I'm in the middle of speaking. So anyway, it's unusual, also unusual that we don't have, none of the members here have a resolution to look at. Okay. Well, under those circumstances, does everyone know what the resolution says? Has everyone received it? All right, well, let's just, then someone read it, at least.
It would be resolution, whatever number would be appropriate. An emergency resolution requiring the wearing of face coverings in certain situations to slow the community spread of the coronavirus. Whereas the City of Rapid City has an obligation pursuant to whatever law would be to pass resolutions for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Whereas pursuant to whatever law would apply, the city has the power to do what is necessary or expedient for the promotion of health, of the suppression of disease. And whereas an outbreak of the disease COVID-19, which is caused by the novel coronavirus, has been confirmed in more than 100 countries, including the United States. And whereas COVID-19 is a severe respiratory disease transmitted by person-to-person contact or by contact with surfaces contaminated by the virus. In some cases, especially among older adults and persons with serious underlying health conditions, COVID-19 can result in serious illness requiring hospitalization, admission to an intensive care unit, and death. And whereas the World Health Organization, the CDC, and the Secretary of the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services have declared the outbreak of COVID-19 as a public emergency. And whereas the City of Rapid City has authority to pass resolutions for the purpose of promoting the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community. Whereas pursuant to the certain law, the city has the power to do what is necessary or expedient for the promotion of health or the suppression of disease. Whereas an outbreak of the disease, which is caused by the novel coronavirus, has been confirmed in more than 100 countries, including the United States. whereas COVID-19 is a severe respiratory disease transmitted by person-to-person contact or by contact with surfaces contaminated by the virus. Okay, that's a duplication. It's where it changes from the ordinance is whereas the CDC in the vast majority, and remember, this is a draft copy that I've put out to people. It's a draft. Whereas the CDC and the vast majority of medical professionals, such as our own Monument Hospital, are recommending following the 3 W's, those being wash hands, wear a mask, and walk away if less than 6 feet from the nearest person to slow the spread of the COVID-19. And whereas the city is implementing a resolution that we follow the 3 W's in hopes that it will slow the spread of COVID-19, avoid the need for further restrictions and limitations on public gatherings. Whereas the Common Council of the City of Rapid City has determined that it is in the city's best interest to adopt a resolution that face coverings and other interventions be followed in an effort to slow the spread of COVID-19 and prevent the city's medical facilities from being overwhelmed by the recent surge in new positive cases. Now therefore be it resolved by the Common Council and the definitions of indoor place stays as introduced. Section 2, face covering strongly encouraged. Within the City of Rapid City, all persons are strongly encouraged and invited to wear a face mask or face covering in indoor public places where 6 feet of social distancing cannot be achieved or maintained. A face covering or mask should be worn to cover the nose and mouth completely and include a paper disposable face mask, cloth mask, scarf, bandana, or neck gaiter. Any business that fails within the deviation of an indoor public place must make reasonable efforts to ensure that patrons of the business are complying with the requirements of this resolution, including the posting of signage to notify patrons of the requirements that mask or face coverings should be worn. Nothing in this resolution should be construed as preventing any business or property owner from adopting or maintaining rules or restrictions on the wearing of face masks, face coverings, or implementing social distancing requirements that are stricter than the provisions of the resolution. The restrictions set forth shall not apply to the following individuals: those under the age of 5 years old, those seated at a public place to eat or drink while immediately consuming food or beverages, someone who is receiving dental or medical care that prevents them from wearing a face covering, those with a medical condition, mental health condition, or disability that makes it unreasonable for the individual to maintain face covering. E, individuals who are engaged in swimming or team sports activity where the level of exertion makes it difficult to wear a face covering. F, public safety workers actively engaged in public safety role, including but not limited to law enforcement personnel, firefighters, or emergency medical personnel in situations where wearing a face covering would seriously interfere in the performance of the individual's public safety responsibilities. G, individuals participating in worship services or other religious practices or celebrations. Next, section 3 is the penalty section. There shall be no monetary, civil, or criminal fine or penalty assessed for failure to follow this resolution. Effective. The resolution shall remain effective until January 1st, 2021, unless extended or terminated by vote of the Common Council. The City Council may suspend, reinstate enforcement of the resolution at any time before the expiration of the ordinance. The resolution is hereby declared necessary for the immediate preservation of the public health, safety, and welfare of the city and shall become effective upon its passage. So this is a draft number 2 of a document I sent out to all the council members and the mayor today, and then I worked on cleaning it up a little more to create draft number 2. So as I said, this is the draft that's not in perfectly clean fashion, but the main difference between the ordinance was it changed from an ordinance to a resolution. It states that we encourage them strongly to follow the guidelines from Monument Hospital, the 3 W's. That we support the right of businesses to do what they need to do in their business, and we hope people will do the right thing, take good care of themselves and each other. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call on City Attorney Joel Landine just to comment on the introduction of this item in this way, if you see any issues with it.
I will just say that in my experience, consistently, the council has allowed substitute motions, but I think at this point, frankly, it's kind of an academic exercise because if you haven't figured it out already, it's a 5-5 split. So ultimately, if the resolution, the motion to pass the resolution is voted on, the mayor will likely break the tie. At that point, if it fails, it will go back to the original motion, which is to pass the ordinance. Again, I'm assuming it will be a 5-5 tie, and again, the mayor will break the vote. So I don't know that we need to spend a ton of time on this, but I think at this point, as far as legally, they knew you were discussing whether or not to do a mask mandate tonight. I don't think legally it's inappropriate to substitute a motion. It is somewhat concerning to, again, pass a motion without having anyone seen it, but the item was clearly on the agenda and those interested in the topic could come and speak on it. So I think legally for public meeting requirements, you would be fine passing the resolution tonight.
Okay, thank you. I just looked back and I did receive the email from Alderman Jones earlier about the idea of a resolution. I just did not see the follow-up email from Mr. Landine on that matter. So there's confusion. I don't believe the resolution needs 24. The issue at hand has been noticed for at least 24 hours. As far as the specific vehicle, how to get there, and I'm not sure that's 100% necessary to identify that in specificity. Yes?
And Mr. Mayor, and I'm glad we can be respectful to each other. You know what? I always feel better when we have time to absorb the information. I'm okay if we want to wait till our next meeting or something along those lines. If it would make everybody feel comfortable and we get a solid draft going through. This was so rushed for everybody that it's been very difficult for us to try to catch up to you. So if we could just work together. Mr. Jones put a lot of effort in, and you never know, we might have a 6 vote. So if we have to vote on it tonight, I would say it's not academic because people have changes of minds and hearts all the time. It's okay. We do that. But I would say probably in the best interest, it would be best just to wait till the next council meeting and then, let the chips fall where they may.
Well,
thank you for letting me interject.
You have a motion on the floor to pass the resolution, and that's been seconded, I think, by Mr. Weifenbach. And so if we dispose of that, we're back to the original motion. If you pull your motion, we're back to the original motion.
Nice try, but no thanks.
Pardon?
It's a nice try, but no thanks. I'm going to keep my resolution on the floor if that's the case.
Okay, thank you. All right, Mr. Weifenbach, still out of time?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have time. We have a new motion on the floor.
No, sir, this is the same item.
You're telling me I have no time to talk? Let's get a legal opinion on this. This is a separate motion. Our time starts over, Mr. Mayor. If you want to just silence me.
Listen, your rule book
The
explains
rule
that
book,
each-
Robert's Rules of Orders, we got a new motion on the table, we got a new time set. Whatever Mr. Landine says,
I'm going to take your comments as a point of order and address it this way. We've been through this a number of times over the last several years. The City Council Rules and Procedures Manual that was adopted by this council specifically states that each item allows 5 minutes from each council member, and that is regardless of substitute motions.
So this you're saying is regardless of the motion on the table, so I can't say anything to the new motion on the table.
The
I
item
can't
is
represent
item-
my citizens in my ward,
The item is item number 1 on the agenda, and each council member gets 5 minutes for that item.
even with the substitute motion.
Correct.
If that's Mr. Landine's feeling on it, and he makes the ruling on it, I'll abide by that.
All right, Mr. Landine.
As long as we've kept track of everybody else's time also.
Yep.
I believe that is the way that we've handled it recently. I do not have the council policies and procedures in front of me, and the mayor, as the chair, ultimately makes the decision. However, as the council, you're all well aware, rather than continuing to argue about the time limit, you certainly have the ability on this item to suspend the rules and give yourselves additional time to talk about it if you want to.
Can we, the council can vote on it?
Yes.
How do we do that, Mr. Landine?
Can make a motion to suspend the rules.
We got a motion on the table. I'll let the mayor silence me.
Okay. All right, we have someone in the queue who has time left. Greg Stroman has 3 minutes.
I just wanted a couple of things to tag on to what Pat said in his last 1 minute, 10-second burst. That is that it is important for us to get our kids back in school. And I'm painfully aware of the suicide problem that's out there now and the depression with the school kids. I don't think that this hurts that or helps or hurts anybody in terms of the suicide rate. I think that this actually, if we pass this mandate, I think we have a better chance of suppressing this virus and having a healthier community where we can get our kids back in school where we want them to be. The second thing is, I understand this is a first reading of the ordinance, correct? And there will be another one?
Correct.
And there's not a, okay, so, and we're voting on the resolution right now then?
We're voting on the resolution first.
Okay.
But the ordinance that is on the agenda would be the first reading, and if that would to pass, then there would be a second reading.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Now, I'm going to hand the chairmanship over to the council president. I'm going to start a timer for myself. I'm going to make a few comments on this. So, okay. These are unusual times. This is the worst global pandemic in the last 100 years. Nobody here alive has ever had to deal with this. Nobody's ever had to contemplate some of the decisions that have come to government leaders over the last 9 months. So it's very unusual. Our hospital, Monument Health, is in crisis, and you're splitting hairs if you're going to say there's empty rooms or low staffing. It all speaks to the capacity of the hospital. And medical personnel is in high demand now. They are getting traveling personnel from all over the country trying to keep up with the workload. The healthcare workers have one request of this city: to urge people to wear masks so that they can get their job done without having to make difficult decisions. And on the context of education, should we start 9 months in trying to educate individuals that we've been trying to educate for nine months? There's more education taking place on YouTube and Facebook and dark web sites that are telling people that everything from this is a hoax to it's a political conspiracy and that masks don't work and that on and on and on. So I don't see being able to bend this curve back by suddenly starting to tell people things they're not willing to believe. The question tonight really is this: to do nothing or to put some meat on the bone. And I'm glad Mr. Weifenbach brought up the duck feeding ordinance. I was here for that. That was a very interesting time when we had an overpopulation of ducks at Canyon Lake Park, and we, on the advice of the Game Fish and Parks, we created an ordinance, and the enforcement came in to that discussion, and it was very heated. Oh my gosh, is my 3-year-old going to get a ticket for feeding a duck a piece of bread, and on and on and on. I'm pretty darn confident the police with that ordinance didn't issue a single ticket to anyone, because with any new law, the law enforcement, the whole public safety approach to a new law is to educate, educate, educate. And then for the hardliners, for the people who can't or won't be educated, then we reserve that for the criminal justice system. So, and there was I think it was in the newspaper, there was a headline, could come with a $500 fine and 30 days in jail. Well, so does speeding. You going 1 mile and over the speed limit carries a maximum fine of $500 and 30 days in jail. And that fine doesn't exist. And I say, as far as enforcement, Chief Hedrick and his department are plenty skilled in approaching new laws and public safety situations like this. We're not going to hire a new SWAT team and get them out there to target people not wearing a mask. But we will get more compliance with a mandate than we will a suggestion. We already have a suggestion in place. We made that in April or May. We issued a resolution and we got plenty of press on it. And so we've done these type of things for the last 9 months. So this is a once in a lifetime pandemic. At least we hope it is. It's the first one in our lives of this nature. And we also believe that the measures that are being taken now are once in a lifetime measures. I do not believe a mask mandate is a gateway to imposing a one-child only rule or not being able to own personal property or any of the things that some of our communist countries have imposed. So, you know, I'm sorry we're at this point. I really am. I feel badly for us. We're being torn apart not only by a pandemic, but by a dysfunctional presidential campaign and all kinds of other things that there are to tear us apart. And so in closing, I just want to tell you this. I live in Rapid City, South Dakota. I have owned the same house since January 1991. I still live, sleep, eat meals in that house. A couple of years ago, I did buy a property in Meade County. And so now the rumor mill's swirling, and it's got me pinned as a carpetbagger doing something immoral. The house I have in Meade County has no furniture in it. It sits there because someday I plan to live there. But I live in the same exact house I have for 30 years. And I've been fortunate enough to do that. And I will remain there as long as I am mayor. Thank you. Okay. The motion on the floor is to approve the resolution version of the mask mandate or suggestion. You know what I'm talking about. Since we have Darla Drew on the phone, are you still there, Darla?
I'm here.
We've had some problems connecting tonight. We will need to go to a roll call vote, please. Heidi?
Nordstrom.
No.
Weifenbach. Roberts.
Yes.
Stroman.
No.
Armstrong.
No.
Jones.
Yes.
Lehman.
Yes.
Solomon.
Aye.
Evans.
No.
Drew.
No.
Motion ties 5-5.
Okay, the chair votes no, so that motion fails. Now we're back to the original motion on the floor, which is to approve the first reading of Ordinance 6453, an emergency ordinance requiring the wearing of face coverings in certain situations. And as in all ordinances, if approved on the first reading, a second reading will be required. So this was, if it passes, this will not be the last time we see it tonight. So again, that's the motion on the floor, and we'll go back to another roll call vote.
Nordstrom.
Aye.
Evans.
Aye.
Roberts.
No.
Stroman.
Aye.
Armstrong.
Aye.
Jones.
No.
Solomon.
No.
Weifenbach. Lehman.
No.
Drew.
Aye.
Motion ties 5-5.
Okay, chair votes aye. So that motion passes. And now before we adjourn, would the council like to take up, I guess we don't need to do that. A second meeting will be scheduled and notifications will be sent out. I guess we don't need to announce that tonight. So I would, could be. So I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn by Lehman, second by Armstrong. All in favor say aye. Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Aye.